Have you ever looked back at your love life and wondered, why did nothing work out? Not one connection. Not the person you thought would stay. Not the relationship you prayed would heal. Not the one who made you believe, maybe this time, maybe this is finally it. Some endings were loud. Arguments. Betrayals. Truth coming out at the worst possible time. But others were quiet. A slow distance. A change in tone. A message left unread. A goodbye that never sounded like goodbye until weeks later, when the silence explained everything. And after enough disappointment, you start asking painful questions. What is wrong with me? Why do I keep meeting people who almost love me? Why does every connection feel like a lesson instead of a home? Why does my heart keep being prepared for love but never allowed to keep it? Chosen one, listen closely. Nothing worked out before because your soul was not being punished. It was being protected. Some doors closed because they were not aligned with the union written into your soul contract. Some people left because they could only awaken a part of you, not walk with the whole of you. Some connections were intense because they were mirrors. Some were painful because they were purging old wounds. Some were almost enough because they were teaching you to stop settling for almost. You thought love kept failing. But what if love was being filtered? What if every ending was not proof that you were hard to love, but proof that your soul refused to let you build a life with someone who could not meet your destiny? What if the relationships that broke your heart were not mistakes, but preparation? And what if the right union was not delayed because you were unworthy, but because both souls had to be positioned, refined, awakened, and made ready for a love that would not collapse under truth? In this video, we're going to uncover why nothing worked out before, why certain people could touch your heart but never stay, and why your soul contract may have been protecting you from every union that was not meant to become home. Because the love meant for you is not just someone who wants you. It is someone whose soul can meet yours in the place where your purpose, healing, truth, and destiny finally align. And once you understand this, you may stop mourning what ended and start recognizing what your soul was saving you for. Chapter 1. The relationships that failed were not always failures. I used to think every relationship that ended meant I had failed somehow. I really did. I would sit there after another ending, staring at my phone like the screen owed me an explanation. The room would be quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every memory louder than it should be. Their last message. Their tone. The way they used to say my name. The shift I felt before anything was spoken. The moment I knew something was changing, but I kept hoping I was wrong. And after enough endings, you start looking for the problem in yourself. Maybe I loved too hard. Maybe I wanted too much. Maybe I was too intense. Too emotional. Too spiritual. Too difficult to understand. Maybe I should have been calmer. More patient. Less honest. Less sensitive. Less available. Less me. That is what repeated disappointment can do to a heart. It does not just make you question the other person. It makes you question your own worth. You start wondering why love keeps arriving almost right, but never fully. Why someone can look into your eyes like they see your soul, then later become distant like they never knew you at all. Why a connection can begin with warmth, laughter, long conversations, and strange familiarity only to end in silence, confusion, or emotional exhaustion. And the hardest part, some of those relationships did not feel meaningless. They felt real. Maybe that is what made the ending hurt so much. If it had all been fake, maybe you could have walked away easier. If there had been no tenderness, no chemistry, no late-night honesty, no moments where their eyes softened in a way your body still remembers, maybe you could have dismissed it. But there were moments. Small ones. The way they remembered something you said weeks earlier. The way the conversation flowed so easily at first. The way your nervous system relaxed when they were warm. The way you thought quietly, maybe this is different. And then somehow it still did not work. The calls became shorter. The replies slowed down. The energy shifted. The warmth started coming in fragments. The person who once made you feel chosen suddenly made you feel like you were asking for too much. You tried to stay steady. You told yourself, maybe they're just busy. You gave space. You were understanding. You read between the lines because you did not want to believe the line itself was becoming clear. Then one day, you realized you were carrying the relationship almost by yourself. You were holding the hope, holding the emotional weight, holding the memory of who they were in the beginning, holding the possibility of who they might become if they finally healed, finally opened, finally stayed. And when it ended, you did not just grieve the person. You grieved the version of the future you had started to believe in. Pause there, because if you have ever lost someone you thought might become home, you know this grief is not simple. It is not just, I miss them. It is deeper than that. It is, why did I feel so much if they were not meant to stay? It is, why did life let me open my heart again if this was only going to become another lesson? It is, how many times can I start over before I stop believing love is safe? And maybe the question you never said out loud was, what is wrong with me that nothing works out? That question is heavy. It sits in the chest. It follows you into new connections. Even when someone kind appears, a part of you is already bracing, waiting for the shift, the colder tone, the delayed reply, the first sign that once again, love is preparing to leave. But chosen one, listen softly. What if nothing was wrong with you? What if the relationships that ended were not always failures? What if some of them completed exactly what they came to complete? Not the way your heart wanted, not in the form of forever, not as the final union, but as mirrors, lessons, awakenings, redirections, temporary doorways that brought you closer to the truth of what your soul was actually waiting for. This is difficult to accept at first because the human heart does not want lessons when it wants love. The human heart wants someone to stay. It wants arms, consistency, a message that does not need decoding, a person who does not make you feel like loving them requires emotional survival skills. So when a relationship ends, calling it a lesson can feel almost insulting, like reducing your heartbreak to a spiritual slogan. But this is not about dismissing the pain. The pain mattered. The love mattered. The memories mattered. Your hope mattered. Still, something can matter deeply and not be meant to become your final home. Something can be real and temporary. Something can awaken your heart without being able to hold your future. Something can be part of your soul contract without being the union your soul contract was saving you for. That is the deeper revelation. Some relationships fail in the human sense, but succeed in the soul sense. They succeed because they show you what you were tolerating. They show you where you overgave. They show you how quickly you abandon your own needs when someone gives you just enough hope. They show you the difference between being wanted in moments and being chosen in patterns. They show you that chemistry without emotional maturity can become a beautiful kind of suffering. They show you that love cannot become safe if only one person is willing to be honest. And maybe at the time you did not want to see it. Maybe your body saw it before your mind did. A tightness in your stomach when they became distant. A heaviness after conversations that were supposed to bring clarity. A small ache in your throat when you wanted to ask for more, but were afraid of sounding needy. A tiredness in your chest after pretending you were okay with less than you needed. Your body knew. Your soul knew. But your heart was attached to the version of them that appeared in the beginning. The version who made you laugh. The version who listened. The version who seemed emotionally present. The version whose eye contact felt like a promise, even though no promise had been spoken. That is the emotional contradiction. You can miss the beautiful parts and still admit the relationship was not aligned. You can love someone and still recognize that loving them was costing you yourself. You can feel grateful for what they awakened and still refuse to call their inconsistency destiny. You can grieve the ending and still understand it protected you. Both can be true. And that is where healing becomes more honest. Not when you say, they were terrible. It meant nothing. Sometimes that is not true. Sometimes they were not terrible. Sometimes they were wounded, unavailable, confused, unable to meet the depth they awakened in you. Sometimes they cared, but not with the capacity required to love you well. Sometimes they felt something, but feeling something is not the same as being ready for union. This is where many chosen ones get stuck. They think, but I know it was real. Yes, maybe it was. But real does not always mean right. Real does not always mean ready. Real does not always mean final. A connection can be real and still not be the right union. A person can touch your soul and still not be able to walk with your purpose. A relationship can awaken your heart and still not have the foundation to become safe. The soul contract is not always protecting you from people who feel meaningless. Sometimes it protects you from people who feel meaningful, but are still not aligned with where your soul is going. That is harder. It is easier to release what never touched you. It is harder to release someone who did. Someone who saw pieces of you. Someone who shared moments that felt sacred. Someone who made you feel, even briefly, like love was possible again. But if they could only meet pieces of you, not the whole of you. If they loved your light, but could not hold your depth. If they wanted your warmth, but not your truth. If they enjoyed your presence, but avoided your needs. If they awakened your longing, but could not offer safety. Then the relationship may have reached its completion. Not because you were not enough. Because the connection was not enough for the union your soul came here to experience. Let that land. You were not too much. The container was too small. Some people can only love you at the level they have met themselves. If they avoid their own emotions, your emotional depth will overwhelm them. If they fear accountability, your honesty will feel like pressure. If they are attached to comfort, your soul-level connection will feel too exposing. If they are not ready to grow, your presence may become a mirror they cannot stand in front of for long. So they leave, or they drift, or they become inconsistent, or they make you feel like your needs are the problem. But your needs were not the enemy. Your needs were revealing whether the connection had the capacity to become real. That is why endings can be sacred, even when they hurt. An ending can reveal the truth, a beginning covered in chemistry. At the beginning, everyone is easier to love. There is excitement, curiosity, possibility. People show their best selves. The nervous system is flooded with hope. You notice the sweetness, the similarities, the strange timing, the little coincidences, the long conversations that make sleep feel less important. But time reveals capacity. Time reveals whether someone can stay consistent after the emotional high fades. Time reveals whether they can communicate when things become uncomfortable. Time reveals whether they can hold your vulnerability with care. Time reveals whether they can meet your soul without running from their own. And when time reveals they cannot, the relationship may end. Not as punishment, as clarity. Clarity does not always feel like a gift when it first arrives. Sometimes clarity feels like a door closing, a message not answered, a conversation that finally exposes what you were afraid was true, a moment when you realize you have been trying to be chosen by someone who is not capable of choosing anyone deeply, not even themselves. That moment hurts. It can make you feel foolish. You may think, why did I not see this earlier? But you did see it. In pieces, in sensations, in pauses, in small moments you explained away because your heart was still hoping. Do not shame yourself for hoping. Hope is not foolish. Hope only becomes painful when it asks you to ignore reality. And maybe those relationships taught you that. They taught you to stop choosing potential over presence. They taught you to stop building a future from someone's almost. They taught you to stop treating emotional intensity as proof of emotional availability. They taught you that a person can say beautiful things and still not know how to show up. They taught you that your soul contract will not let you settle forever in a connection that keeps you away from your truth. This is why nothing worked out before. Not because you were cursed. Not because love rejects you. Not because you are impossible to keep. But because your soul was filtering. Every ending was removing what could not align. Every heartbreak was refining your discernment. Every almost love was teaching your body what peace does not feel like. So one day it could recognize what peace does feel like. Every failed relationship was bringing you closer to the right union by showing you what the right union cannot be. It cannot be one-sided. It cannot be built on silence. It cannot be sustained by potential. It cannot require self-abandonment. It cannot make your nervous system live in constant fear. It cannot ask you to become smaller, so someone else does not have to become braver. The right union is not simply the person who gives you butterflies. You have had butterflies before. The right union is not just someone who creates a soul pull. You may have felt pulls that led you into lessons. The right union is not the one who activates every wound and calls it passion. No. The right union is the connection that can meet your depth without making you bleed for it. It is the union that aligns with your healing, your purpose, your emotional safety, and your becoming. It is the love that does not just awaken you. It can walk with the awakened version of you. And to prepare you for that, some relationships had to end. Some people had to leave. Some doors had to close. Some fantasies had to fall apart. Not because the universe was taking love from you, because it was refusing to let you build your future with someone who only belonged to your lesson. That is hard mercy, the kind you may not appreciate until later. At first, you only feel the absence. You miss the person, the routine, the texts, the comfort of having someone to think about, the imagined future, the emotional identity you built around them. But later, after the ache softens, you begin to see what the ending saved you from. Maybe it saved you from years of shrinking. Maybe it saved you from constantly begging for clarity. Maybe it saved you from becoming fluent in someone else's excuses. Maybe it saved you from a life where your soul slowly went quiet. Maybe it saved you from mistaking attachment for destiny. That realization does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes quietly. You are washing dishes one evening, or walking alone, or lying in bed without crying for the first time in weeks. And suddenly you understand. I loved them, but I was not safe there. I wanted it to work, but I was abandoning myself. I thought I lost love, but I may have been protected from a life that would have cost me my soul. That is when the ending starts changing shape. It stops looking only like rejection. It begins to look like redirection. Not the kind of redirection people say casually. Real redirection. The kind that hurts first and saves you later. The kind that moves you away from what your wound wanted and toward what your soul was contracted to meet. And no, this does not mean the pain disappears instantly. You may still grieve. You may still remember. You may still wonder about the people who almost became something. The ones who came close. The ones who felt familiar. The ones who left emotional fingerprints. Healing does not require you to pretend they meant nothing. It asks you to stop making their ending mean you are unworthy. That is the shift. Their leaving does not define your lovability. Their incapacity does not define your value. Their silence does not define your depth. Their inability to stay does not mean you are not meant for union. It may mean the opposite. It may mean your soul contract is so precise that it would not allow you to settle in a union that could never hold the fullness of who you are becoming. So if you are looking back at your past and seeing only failed relationships, look again. Look with gentler eyes. See the connection that taught you where you overgave. See the one that taught you not to confuse inconsistency with mystery. See the one that taught you how abandonment fear lived in your body. See the one that taught you that attraction is not alignment. See the one that taught you to trust the heaviness in your chest. See the one that taught you that being chosen in fragments is not the same as being loved in wholeness. None of it was wasted. Not the tears. Not the confusion. Not the nights you blamed yourself. Not the mornings you woke up with that hollow feeling and still kept going. Not the messages you never sent. Not the conversations you replayed. Not the goodbye that left you without closure. Every piece was part of your becoming. And maybe this is the beginning of healing your past. Not by calling everything perfect. Not by pretending it did not hurt. But by realizing that what ended may have ended because your soul contract was waiting for something more aligned than your wounded heart knew how to ask for. That is a powerful thought. Your wounded heart may have asked for them. Your soul asked for alignment. Your wounded heart may have asked for comfort. Your soul asked for truth. Your wounded heart may have asked for the person to stay. Your soul asked for the right union to arrive when both love and purpose could stand together. And sometimes the soul wins by closing doors the heart was still knocking on. It feels cruel in the moment. Later, it feels like grace. Chosen one, the relationships that failed were not always failures. Some were completions. Some were mirrors. Some were awakenings. Some were sacred interruptions. Some were temporary bridges from who you were to who you are becoming. They did not all come to stay. Some came to reveal. And once their lesson was revealed, your soul could not let you remain there. Not because you were unloved, because you were being saved for the love that can actually meet you. The right union. The one that does not ask you to abandon your truth. The one that does not turn your sensitivity into a problem. The one that does not make you survive on almost. The one that does not only recognize your soul in passing, but chooses to honor it in presence. And as you begin to see your past relationships this way, something in your chest may soften. Not all the way, but enough. Enough to stop blaming yourself for every ending. Enough to stop calling yourself difficult to love. Enough to understand that maybe love was not failing you. Maybe love was filtering. Maybe your soul was quietly saying, not this one. Not this pattern. Not this version of you. Not this kind of union. Keep going. And the hardest part is realizing that some people were allowed to touch your heart deeply even though they were never meant to stay. They were not destinations. They were mirrors. And once you understand that, the next chapter opens. Lesson of this chapter. Not every relationship that ended was a failure. Some connections completed their purpose by showing you what needed healing, what needed releasing, and what you could no longer accept. The emotional truth is simple. Some relationships were real, but not final. They mattered, but they were not the right union. They touched your heart, but they could not hold your destiny. Nothing worked out before because your soul contract was not guiding you toward any love. It was guiding you toward aligned love. Chapter 2. Some people were mirrors, not destinations. There is an uncomfortable truth I had to learn about love. Some people do not enter your life to stay. They enter to show you yourself. Not the polished version. Not the version you post. Not the version that gives good advice. Not the version that says, I'm fine, even when your chest feels like it has been holding its breath for weeks. They show you the hidden version. The anxious one. The hopeful one. The one who still waits for a reply like it is a verdict. The one who over-explains because silence feels dangerous. The one who loves potential more than reality. The one who can feel someone pulling away before they ever say it and immediately starts wondering what they did wrong. I did not understand this at first. I thought if someone touched my heart deeply, they must have been meant to become a destination. A home. A forever. A chapter that finally did not end in confusion. But some people feel unforgettable not because they are meant to stay forever, but because they awaken a part of you that has been waiting to be seen. And sometimes being seen hurts before it heals. Maybe you have known a connection like that. Someone who entered your life and somehow made everything louder. Your emotions, your hope, your fear, your longing, your intuition, your insecurity, your need to be chosen. At first, it may have felt magical. The eye contact was different. Not just attractive. Different. There was a pause in it, a strange familiarity. The kind of look that makes the room feel quiet for half a second, even if people are talking around you. You felt something in your body before your mind had language for it. A pull. A warmth. A little nervousness. A soft shock in the chest. And maybe you thought, this must mean they are the one. Because the connection felt intense. Because their presence stirred something. Because you could not ignore them the way you ignored everyone else. Because when they were warm, your whole body relaxed. When they noticed you, the day felt lighter. When they messaged, your nervous system softened. And when they disappeared, everything inside you tightened. That is where the mirror begins. Not in the beautiful part. The beautiful part opens the door. The mirror begins when the wound comes forward. Their silence made your chest ache. Their distance made your stomach drop. Their inconsistency made your mind race. A delayed reply became a whole emotional event. A slight change in tone made you replay the conversation 10 times. A moment of coldness made you wonder if you had imagined the warmth. And suddenly, the connection was not only about love. It was about survival. You were trying to feel safe again, trying to read the signs, trying to understand the shift, trying to get back to the version of them that made you feel chosen. And maybe you called it intuition. Sometimes it was. But sometimes, it was an old wound recognizing a familiar pattern. Pause there, because that distinction can change everything. Not every intense emotional reaction is divine confirmation. Sometimes it is memory. The body remembers what the mind tries to spiritualize. It remembers being left without explanation. It remembers needing to be easy to love. It remembers emotional distance from people who were supposed to be safe. It remembers having to guess someone's mood before asking for what it needed. It remembers affection that came and went like weather. So when someone enters your life and gives you warmth mixed with distance, tenderness mixed with avoidance, closeness mixed with silence, your nervous system may call it chemistry. Your soul may feel the mirror. Your wound may whisper, maybe this time I can make them stay. That is raw, but it is honest. Some people are mirrors because they reveal the exact place where you still confuse being chosen with being healed. They show you where you still measure your worth through someone else's consistency. They show you where you still abandon your needs to keep access to someone's affection. They show you where you still believe love has to be earned by patience, understanding, and emotional labor. They show you where you still think, if I love them well enough, they will stop running. And that is a painful mirror to face, because it is easier to make the whole story about them. Their fear, their avoidance, their mixed signals, their inability to communicate, their silence, their emotional unavailability. And yes, those things may be real. They may have been inconsistent. They may have been confusing. They may have awakened hope and then withdrawn. They may have looked at you like they felt everything, then acted like nothing happened. But a mirror connection does not only show you them. It shows you. It asks, why did their distance feel like proof that you were not enough? Why did their inconsistency make you want to prove yourself harder? Why did one message from them have the power to change your entire mood? Why did you feel more drawn to earning their love than receiving someone else's peace? Why did uncertainty feel more magnetic than safety? These questions are uncomfortable. They do not blame you. They reveal you. And revelation is often the beginning of freedom. I remember realizing that I was not only grieving a person. I was grieving the hope that this person would finally heal something older than them. I wanted them to choose me clearly, so some younger part of me could finally rest. I wanted their consistency to prove that I was not too much. I wanted their apology to undo every time someone had left me confused. I wanted their return to make my intuition feel valid. That is a lot to place on one person. Even someone with a soul connection. Even someone who truly mattered. A mirror can awaken the wound. But it cannot always become the medicine. Sometimes the medicine is what you do after the mirror reveals what is there. Do you chase? Or do you pause? Do you blame yourself? Or do you hold yourself? Do you keep waiting for them to become the answer? Or do you finally ask what the ache is trying to teach you? Mirror connections are powerful because they show you what still has authority over your emotional life. If someone's silence can make you abandon your peace, the mirror is showing you something. If someone's inconsistency can make you shrink your needs, the mirror is showing you something. If someone's warmth can make you forget your standards, the mirror is showing you something. If someone's potential can keep you attached to their absence, the mirror is showing you something. Not that you are weak. Not that you are foolish. Not that your love was wrong. It is showing you where love still became a place you left yourself. And that is why some people could not be destinations. A destination is where you can rest. A mirror is where you awaken. A destination can hold you. A mirror exposes you. A destination meets you with presence. A mirror reflects what still needs healing before you can receive presence without fear. Some people were not built to be the final union. They were built to reveal why you were not yet safe inside love. Not safe because love was dangerous by itself, but because your body had learned love through tension, through uncertainty, through waiting, through guessing, through almost, through people who gave affection in fragments, So when someone came in with intensity, your system recognized the old rhythm. Warmth, distance, hope, fear, relief, ache. And because it was familiar, it felt meaningful. But familiar is not always aligned. Sometimes familiar is just old pain wearing a new face. That sentence may sting. Let it be gentle. Not every mirror connection was toxic. Not every person who triggered you was intentionally harmful. Some were kind in moments. Some truly cared. Some were confused by the intensity too. Some had their own wounds, their own fears, their own inability to stay present when intimacy became real. You may have been mirrors for each other. You may have awakened something in them, just as they awakened something in you. Your depth may have exposed their avoidance. Their distance may have exposed your abandonment wound. Your honesty may have exposed their fear of vulnerability. Their silence may have exposed your fear of not matching. This is what makes these connections feel so complicated. There can be love there. There can be recognition. There can be genuine tenderness. There can be unforgettable moments. And still, the connection may not be the right union. At least not in that form. Not while both people are relating from wounds. Not while one person runs from truth and the other chases clarity. Not while one person gives fragments and the other builds a future from them. Not while the bond is carried more by longing than by responsibility. A soul contract does not only ask, did this person touch your heart? It asks, can this person meet the purpose of the union? Can they hold your truth? Can they communicate? Can they grow with you? Can they stay present when the mirror becomes uncomfortable? Can they love the whole of you, not just the parts that comfort them? Can you remain yourself with them? Can your body rest? Can your heart open without becoming desperate? Can the connection become safe in the human world, not only powerful in the unseen? Those questions matter, because the right union is not just an intense spiritual feeling. It is alignment, and alignment must be lived. It must be shown. It must be embodied. A mirror connection may show you your wound. The right union must be able to meet your healing. And sometimes a mirror person cannot do that. They can awaken you, but not walk with you. They can reveal your hunger, but not nourish you. They can expose your fear of abandonment, but not offer the consistency required to help repair trust. They can make you feel deeply, but not meet you steadily. And if you keep trying to turn a mirror into a destination, you may stay stuck in the reflection. Always analyzing. Always waiting. Always asking what it meant. Always trying to turn the lesson into a home. But mirrors are not homes. They are places where you stop and see. Then you move differently. That is the point. Not to hate them. Not to erase them. Not to pretend they meant nothing. But to understand what they came to reveal. Maybe they revealed that you had been overgiving for years. Maybe they revealed that you were attracted to emotional unavailability because it allowed you to keep proving yourself. Maybe they revealed that calm love felt unfamiliar to your nervous system. Maybe they revealed that you did not know how to receive without chasing. Maybe they revealed that you had been confusing intensity with intimacy. Maybe they revealed that your standards became flexible whenever your heart felt chosen. Maybe they revealed that you still believed love had to hurt to matter. These revelations are not small. They are sacred. Painful, yes, but sacred. Because once you see the pattern, you can stop calling it destiny. You can stop saying, this is just how love feels for me. No, that is how wounded love felt. That is how activated love felt. That is how love felt before you learned to stay with yourself. But it does not have to be the final form. The soul contract uses mirrors to prepare you for union by showing you what cannot come into union. Self-abandonment cannot come. Emotional hunger cannot lead. The need to prove your worth cannot be the foundation. Chasing cannot be mistaken for devotion. Silence cannot be romanticized as depth. Pain cannot be worshipped as proof. The mirror exposes these things so they can be healed, not repeated. And yes, sometimes you will miss the mirror. That is the strange part. You may miss the person who triggered you. Not because you want the pain, but because they awakened something vivid in you. You felt alive around them. You felt opened. You felt connected to something bigger. Even the ache had a strange intensity. After they leave, ordinary life can feel too quiet, too flat, too slow. You may mistake that quiet for lack. You may think, if it does not feel like that, is it even love? But maybe what feels flat is simply what peace feels like before your body learns to trust it. Maybe your nervous system is detoxing from the highs and crashes. Maybe the absence of anxiety feels like emptiness because anxiety used to be the proof that something mattered. That is why mirror connections can be addictive. They activate unresolved pain, then occasionally soothe it. A warm message after distance. A soft look after coldness. A confession after silence. A return after absence. The body learns to crave the relief. Not just the person, the relief. But the right union will not require you to become addicted to relief. It will not keep your body in withdrawal. It will not make you survive on emotional highs after long stretches of uncertainty. It may still challenge you. It may still mirror you. It may still bring up places that need healing. But it will not require you to live in constant self-abandonment. That is the difference. The right union does not avoid growth. It creates a safer place for growth. A mirror connection often says, "Look at your wound." The right union says, "Let us hold truth without becoming the wound again." That is a different kind of love. Quieter, deeper, more grounded, more honest, less dramatic maybe, less addictive, but more nourishing. And to recognize that kind of love, you had to learn from the mirrors first. You had to feel what did not feel safe. You had to see what happened when you ignored your body. You had to experience the cost of loving potential. You had to learn that the person who activates you is not always the person who can meet you. You had to learn that a soul connection can be meaningful without being the final union. That last one is difficult. Can someone be meaningful without being meant to stay? Yes. Yes. And sometimes that is exactly the point. They mattered because they revealed you. They mattered because they opened a door inside you. They mattered because they brought up grief that needed to be felt. They mattered because they forced you to ask better questions. They mattered because they showed you the difference between longing and love. They mattered because after them, you could no longer pretend almost was enough. But they may not have been the destination. They may have been the mirror before the path changed. And if you can accept that, grief becomes cleaner. You stop trying to turn every memory into a prediction. You stop asking, will they come back, as the only way to make the connection meaningful. You stop needing the person to stay in order to validate what they taught you. You can say, they mattered. They changed me. They showed me something. And I do not have to make them my final home for the connection to have had purpose. That is emotional maturity. It allows you to honor the connection without becoming trapped in it. It allows you to bless what was real without denying what was missing. It allows you to stop hating yourself for feeling deeply. It allows you to understand that your heart was not wrong. It was learning. And the learning may have been part of the soul contract. Not the contract for permanent union with that person. The contract for awakening. For self-recognition. For clearing the patterns that would have blocked the right union if they had stayed unconscious. Think about it. If the right union had arrived before you saw your own wounds clearly, would you have trusted it? If someone had come with consistency, would your body have called it boring? If someone had offered peace, would you have missed the adrenaline? If someone had loved you steadily, would you have looked for a problem because love without fear felt unfamiliar? Sometimes mirrors come first because they show you the wound, so the right union does not have to carry all of it. They help you see where you are still bracing, still chasing, still expecting abandonment, still drawn to what hurts because it feels known. Once you see that, you can choose differently. Not instantly. Healing is not instant. You may still feel the pull of old patterns. You may still crave people who are emotionally unavailable. You may still feel bored by peace at first. You may still confuse calm with lack of chemistry. But now there is awareness. And awareness creates space. Space between the trigger and the action. Space between the pull and the choice. Space between someone's silence and your self-blame. Space between intensity and the story you attach to it. That space is where your future changes. Without that space, you repeat. With that space, you evolve. A mirror connection gives you the chance to evolve. Not by staying attached to the mirror forever. By becoming conscious of what it reflected. So if there is someone in your past who still feels like a mirror, let yourself look clearly. Not obsessively. Not with the hope of decoding whether they were the one. Just clearly. What did they show you? What did their presence awaken? What did their absence trigger? What did you become around them? Did you feel more yourself? Or did you become smaller? Did your body rest? Or did it brace? Did their love make you honest? Or did their inconsistency make you perform? Did the connection expand your life? Or did it shrink your world into waiting? These questions are not meant to punish the memory. They are meant to separate the lesson from the attachment. Once you know the lesson, you do not have to keep repeating the pain. And perhaps the deepest lesson is this. You are not meant to chase every person who reflects your wound. You are meant to heal the wound so you can recognize the person who reflects your wholeness. That is the shift. From wound recognition to soul alignment. From activation to peace. From longing to readiness. From mirror to union. And yes, the right union may still mirror you. Healthy love does not mean no triggers ever arise. But the right union will not leave you alone inside the trigger. It will have room for repair. Room for conversation. Room for responsibility. Room for tenderness after truth. Room for two people to say, this is hard, but we are not running from ourselves anymore. That is different. That is what your soul contract has been guiding you toward. Not a person who never challenges you. A person whose love has the capacity to meet the challenge consciously. Not a person who only awakens desire. A person who can stand in union. Not a person who only reflects your wound. A person who can meet your healing. So do not be ashamed of the mirrors you loved. Do not call yourself foolish because you thought they were the destination. At the time, you loved from the level of awareness you had. You felt what you felt. You hoped because the heart hopes. You stayed because something in you was trying to understand. There is no shame in that. But now perhaps you can see more. You can see that their purpose may not have been to become your forever. Their purpose may have been to wake you up to the places where forever would have been impossible if you kept abandoning yourself. That is grace disguised as heartbreak. The mirror leaves. The lesson stays. The wound becomes visible. The healing begins. And slowly, you become someone who does not need to be chosen by the mirror anymore. You choose yourself in the reflection. You look at what was shown. You hold the part of you that hurt. You stop blaming yourself for the ending. You stop making their absence the center of your worth. You say, thank you for showing me what I needed to see. Thank you for awakening what needed healing. Thank you for revealing what I cannot carry into the right union. And thank you for not staying in a form that would have kept me repeating myself. That kind of gratitude may take time. Do not force it. Some days you may still feel hurt, angry, confused, tender. That is okay. You can honor the lesson and still grieve the way it arrived. You can be grateful for the mirror and still admit it cut you. You can understand the soul purpose and still feel human pain. Spiritual maturity does not erase emotion. It holds it more honestly. And here is the quiet hope underneath all of this. If the mirrors were that powerful, imagine the right union. Not because it will be more chaotic, because it will be more aligned. Imagine a love that sees you without making you beg to be understood. A love that triggers honesty, not survival. A love that makes your body soften instead of brace. A love where eye contact feels safe, not like a test. A love where silence does not feel like punishment. A love where depth is met with depth. A love where both souls are willing to grow, not just feel. That is what your soul contract was waiting for. Not every connection that stirred you. Not every person who activated longing. Not every almost. The right union. The one that can meet what all the mirrors prepared. So if some people turned out to be mirrors, not destinations, do not reduce your past to failure. Those mirrors were part of the path. They showed you what love awakened in you. They showed you where pain still lived. They showed you the difference between a pull and a promise. They showed you that not every person who touches your soul is meant to walk beside your destiny. And as painful as that is, it is also freeing. Because once you stop making mirrors into destinations, you stop getting lost in reflections. You begin walking again. Toward yourself. Toward healing. Toward the kind of union that does not only reveal your wounds, but can meet the whole of you with truth. And once the mirror shows you the wound, the next connection often tests whether you will repeat the pattern, or finally choose differently. That is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter. Some people were mirrors, not destinations. They entered your life to reveal hidden wounds, old attachment patterns, emotional hunger, and the places where love still felt unsafe inside you. The emotional truth is simple. A connection can be meaningful without being meant to stay. Some people awaken you. Some people trigger you. Some people show you what you still need to heal. But the right union will not only reflect your wound, it will meet your healing. And once you understand the difference between a mirror and a destination, you stop turning every intense connection into forever. Chapter 3. Almost Love was teaching you to stop settling. I remember the pain of almost love. Not the kind of heartbreak that comes from one clean ending. Not the kind where someone sits across from you, looks you in the eyes, and says, "I cannot do this anymore." Almost love is different. It is not always honest enough to leave. It is not stable enough to stay. It hovers. It gives you moments, fragments, little openings that feel so real you start building a whole future around them. Almost chosen. Almost held. Almost understood. Almost safe. Almost enough. And if you have been emotionally hungry for a long time, almost can feel like a meal. A late-night message after days of silence. A soft confession that never becomes consistent behavior. A look across the room that says everything their mouth refuses to admit. A sudden return right when you were starting to detach. A moment of tenderness that makes you forget how long you have been surviving on uncertainty. That is the confusing thing about almost love. It does not give you nothing. Nothing would be easier to release. Almost love gives you just enough to keep your hand on the door. Just enough to make you think, maybe I should be patient. Just enough to make you question whether you are being intuitive or simply attached. Just enough to keep your heart standing in a place where your body cannot rest. Maybe you have known someone like that. Someone who made you feel close to love, but never fully inside it. They could speak deeply, but not consistently. They could be vulnerable at midnight, but distant in the morning. They could look at you like you mattered, then behave like your needs were inconvenient. They could make you feel chosen in one moment and forgotten in the next. And every time you were ready to walk away, something happened. A message, a memory, a dream, a small sign, a sudden warmth. They would come back into your emotional field, just enough to reopen the hope. And you would tell yourself, see, there is still something here. Maybe there was. But something being there does not mean enough is there. Pause with that. Something can be real and still not be enough. Someone can feel deeply and still not love you well. A connection can be spiritual and still be emotionally immature. A person can want you and still not know how to choose you. A soul can recognize yours and still not have the courage, capacity, or consistency to build a life with you. That is the brutal lesson of almost love. It teaches you that feelings are not the same as union. Chemistry is not the same as safety. Potential is not the same as presence. And hidden emotion is not the same as embodied love. Raw honesty? For a long time, I did not want to admit that. I wanted potential to count. I wanted the way they looked at me to count. I wanted the small signs to count. I wanted the moments where they softened to mean more than the patterns where they disappeared. I kept taking the smallest proof of feeling and using it to cover the largest absence of consistency. One warm message could make me forget the silence. One beautiful conversation could make me excuse weeks of confusion. One vulnerable moment could make me believe a whole transformation was happening. And maybe you have done that too. Not because you were weak. Because your heart was trying to survive. Because after so many disappointments, a fragment of love can feel better than none. Because when someone gives you a glimpse of what your soul longs for, it is hard not to believe the whole thing might eventually arrive. So you wait. You wait for the almost to become certain. You wait for the potential to become presence. You wait for the mixed signals to become clarity. You wait for the person to become the version of themselves you keep sensing underneath their fear. And while you wait, something quiet begins to happen. You start lowering the cost of admission to your heart. Not all at once. Slowly. You stop asking for clarity because you do not want to pressure them. You stop expressing hurt because you do not want to seem too sensitive. You stop expecting consistency because you tell yourself they are still healing. You stop honoring your own body because your spirit keeps saying, but the connection feels important. And that is where almost love becomes dangerous. It does not only leave you wanting more. It trains you to accept less. Less communication. Less presence. Less emotional safety. Less accountability. Less truth. Less than what your soul actually came here to receive. And sometimes you do not realize how much you have lowered your needs until you hear yourself defending something that is hurting you. They are just busy. They do care, they just don't know how to show it. They have been through a lot. They are scared of the connection. They feel it too, I know they do. Maybe all of that is true. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they do care. Maybe they are scared. Maybe their past has made intimacy difficult. Maybe they feel more than they know how to express. But your heart is still hungry. Your nervous system is still bracing. Your body is still waiting for the next shift. Your peace is still being interrupted by someone who only meets you in pieces. And your soul contract was never designed to let pieces become your permanent home. That is why almost love keeps failing. Not because you are unlovable. Because your soul knows the difference between a lesson and a union. Almost love may teach you. It may awaken you. It may reveal your patterns. It may show you how deeply you can feel. It may even bring you closer to your own truth. But it cannot become the right union if it requires you to betray yourself in order to keep it alive. The right union does not require you to survive on emotional crumbs. The right union does not make clarity feel like a luxury. The right union does not make you feel guilty for wanting consistency. The right union does not keep your heart in a constant state of negotiation. The right union may still have challenges. It may still require patience. It may still bring healing work to the surface. But it will not make you feel like you are begging to be met. That is the difference. And almost love came to teach you that difference. At first, you may have thought almost love was a sign you needed to try harder. Be more patient, more understanding, more spiritual, more detached, more unconditional. But sometimes almost love is not asking you to become more patient. Sometimes it is asking you to become more honest. Honest about how tired you are. Honest about how much the inconsistency affects you. Honest about the way your mood changes when they show up or disappear. Honest about the fact that you have been calling crumbs signs because you are afraid there may not be a full meal coming. That kind of honesty hurts. It strips away fantasy. It makes you look directly at the relationship without dressing it in potential. Not who they could be. Who they are right now. Not what they might feel. What they are able to express right now. Not what the connection could become one day. What the current dynamic is doing to your body right now. Does your body feel safe? Do you sleep peacefully? Can you speak your needs without rehearsing them 10 times first? Can you be yourself without becoming smaller? Can you trust their care when you are not performing strength? Can you rest in their presence, or are you always waiting for the next emotional shift? These questions are not romantic, but they are holy, because they bring love back into the body. They remind you that your nervous system is part of the union too. Your peace matters. Your needs matter. Your emotional safety matters. A connection is not sacred because it makes you suffer. A connection becomes sacred when it brings you closer to truth. And sometimes the truth is simple. Almost is not enough. Not because you are demanding. Not because you are impatient. Not because you are failing a spiritual test. Almost is not enough because your soul was made for wholeness. You were not created to live in the space between someone's desire and their avoidance. You were not created to be someone's secret emotional home while they remain unavailable in real life. You were not created to keep translating small gestures into big commitments. You were not created to keep proving your worth to people who only love you when it is convenient, comfortable, or consequence-free. That may be hard to hear if you still love someone who gave you almost. Because almost love often leaves deep emotional fingerprints. You remember the good moments, the softness, the laughter, the feeling of being understood for a second, the way they could make the world feel less lonely when they were present. And when people tell you to just move on, they do not understand. They do not understand that you are not only attached to what happened, you are attached to what almost happened. The relationship that almost became real. The confession that almost came. The future that almost opened. The person they almost became with you. That is a special kind of grief. You are grieving something that lived more in possibility than reality. And possibility can be harder to bury than the past. Because the mind keeps saying, what if? What if I had waited longer? What if they were about to change? What if I misunderstood their silence? What if this was a test? What if I walked away too soon? What if no one else ever makes me feel that way? These questions can keep you emotionally tied to almost love long after the connection has stopped nourishing you. They make the unfinished story feel sacred. But unfinished does not always mean destined. Sometimes unfinished means the lesson was completed before the fantasy was. Sometimes the lack of closure is the closure. Sometimes the absence of consistency is the answer. Sometimes the inability to choose you clearly is exactly what your soul needed you to see. Not to punish you. To free you. Almost love teaches you to stop waiting for someone else's confusion to become your certainty. It teaches you to stop making a home in someone's potential. It teaches you to stop allowing rare warmth to erase repeated absence. It teaches you that love should not feel like an emotional guessing game. And if you are honest, maybe almost love taught you something else too. It taught you where you were still afraid to ask for more. Maybe you were afraid that if you asked for consistency, they would leave. Afraid that if you spoke honestly, they would call you dramatic. Afraid that if you admitted how much the inconsistency hurt, you would seem needy. Afraid that if you set a boundary, you would lose the connection completely. So you stayed flexible. Too flexible. You adjusted. You waited. You made excuses. You became emotionally available to someone who was not equally available to you. You kept trying to prove that your love was safe enough for them to stop running. But the right union will not require you to audition for emotional safety. Let that land. The right union will not require you to audition for emotional safety. You do not have to become the most patient, most understanding, most forgiving, most low-maintenance version of yourself just to be loved consistently. You can be human. You can need reassurance sometimes. You can ask questions. You can want clarity. You can feel deeply. You can have boundaries. You can be tender and still expect emotional responsibility. Almost love may have made you feel like those needs were too much. But they were never too much for the right union. They were only too much for someone who was not prepared to meet you. There is a quiet dignity that rises when you finally understand this. At first, it may feel like heartbreak. You realize the connection you wanted may not be able to become what you need. You realize the person you kept seeing potential in may not be choosing growth in real life. You realize the future you imagined was built on moments, not consistency. And yes, that hurts. It may feel like losing them all over again. But underneath the hurt, something else begins to wake up. Self-respect. Not loud. Not angry. Just a steady inner voice that says, I cannot keep shrinking my needs to fit inside someone else's limitations. I cannot keep calling uncertainty spiritual. I cannot keep treating fragments like a full relationship. I cannot keep abandoning my peace just because the connection feels powerful. That voice is sacred. That voice is your soul contract speaking through your self-worth. It is the part of you that knows the right union cannot enter while you are still negotiating with almost. Not because you have to be perfectly healed. Not because you have to erase every feeling. But because your emotional availability is precious. If it stays tied to people who only give you fragments, there is no room for the love that can meet you fully. Almost love occupies space. In your mind, in your body, in your nervous system, in your hope, in the part of you still waiting for them to become ready. Even when they are not present, they can still take up room. You may be physically single, but emotionally unavailable to peace. You may say you are open to love, but part of you is still sitting beside an unfinished door. You may want the right union, but your heart is still negotiating with someone who never gave you the stability to rest. That is why the soul sometimes closes doors that you keep trying to reopen. It is not trying to be cruel. It is making space. It is saying, this almost is blocking your whole. It is saying, this fragment is not the union. It is saying, your heart cannot receive what is aligned while it is still proving itself to what is unavailable. And yes, you may resist. You may cry. You may bargain. You may ask for one more sign, one more conversation, one more chance, one more moment where they finally show you the version you always believed was there. But at some point, the soul gets quiet and firm. No more. Not as punishment, as protection. Because almost love can become a loop if you do not step out. It keeps you waiting for the next warm moment, the next return, the next almost confession, the next sign that things are changing. And sometimes years can pass in that emotional hallway. Not fully with them, not fully free, just suspended. Chosen one, your soul did not come here to live suspended. It came here to experience union that aligns with truth. And union cannot be built with someone who only meets you in fragments. That does not mean you have to hate them. You do not. You can love them softly from a distance. You can honor what they awakened. You can admit the connection mattered. You can even wish them healing. But you do not have to keep feeding your life force into a possibility that has not become presence. That is not giving up on love. It is choosing the kind of love that can actually live. There is a difference between releasing someone and rejecting the connection's purpose. You can release the person and still keep the wisdom. You can release the almost and still honor what it taught you. You can release the fantasy and still remain open to the right union. In fact, releasing almost love may be the very thing that makes you available for the union your soul contract has been waiting for. Because the right union does not compete with old emotional contracts. It does not enter easily into a heart still addicted to someone else's inconsistency. It does not fully land where almost is still being treated as enough. Your soul contract may continue clearing anything that teaches you to settle. Anything that makes you confuse anxiety with passion. Anything that keeps you loyal to potential over peace. Anything that makes you lower your standards in the name of spiritual patience. This clearing may feel lonely, but it is sacred. It is the path from almost to whole, from crumbs to nourishment, from signs to presence, from hidden feelings to embodied love. And as you walk that path, your standards begin to change. You stop being impressed by sudden warmth if it is followed by distance. You stop giving endless credit to good intentions without good behavior. You stop letting someone's wound become an excuse for wounding you. You stop measuring love by how intensely it starts and begin measuring it by how safely it stays. That shift changes everything. You may still feel drawn to certain people. You may still notice chemistry. You may still recognize soul familiarity. But now you ask better questions. Can they communicate? Can they be consistent? Can they handle emotional truth? Can they meet me in ordinary life, not just in intense moments? Can my body relax here? Can I remain myself here? Is this connection nourishing me, or am I surviving on hope? These questions are not walls. They are doors. They open only to what is capable of meeting you. And maybe that is what almost love was teaching you all along. It was teaching you that the right union is not just about being deeply felt. It is about being deeply met. There is a difference. Being felt can happen in a moment. Being met requires capacity. Being felt can be emotional. Being met is relational. Being felt can be hidden. Being met must become present. Being felt may awaken you. Being met can walk with you. Your soul contract was waiting for the kind of union where love does not stop at feeling. It becomes action, care, consistency, truth, a safe place for both souls to grow. That is why almost love could not stay. It touched you. It taught you. It may have awakened your longing, but it could not become the full container for your destiny. And now, as painful as that is, you are beginning to understand. The love that almost chose you was not the measure of your worth. The person who almost stayed was not the limit of what is possible. The connection that almost became something was not the final answer to your prayer. It was part of the preparation. A chapter, a mirror, a lesson in discernment, a sacred interruption that taught your heart to stop calling partial love a home. So if you are grieving an almost love, be gentle with yourself. Do not shame the part of you that hoped. Do not mock the part of you that believed. Do not call yourself foolish for seeing potential. You have a deep heart. You can sense possibility. You can see the good in people. You can feel the hidden rooms. That is a gift. But now your gift must be paired with discernment. You can see someone's potential without making it your responsibility. You can feel a connection without lowering your needs. You can love someone's soul without staying attached to their emotional unavailability. You can honor the almost without living there. And one day, when the right union comes closer, you may realize almost love taught you how to recognize it. Not by the intensity of the longing, but by the steadiness of the presence. Not by the mystery, but by the peace. Not by how much you have to prove, but by how naturally you can be yourself. Not by the fragments, but by the fullness. That will feel different. Maybe unfamiliar at first. You may even question it. Why does this feel calmer? Why am I not spiraling? Why does my body feel safe instead of activated? Is this what love feels like when I do not have to chase it? Yes. Maybe. Maybe that is what your soul has been preparing you to receive. Not almost. Not fragments. Not emotional hunger dressed as destiny. But union. The kind that does not make your heart beg for a seat at the table. The kind that does not require you to interpret silence as love. The kind that does not make you shrink your needs to protect someone else's avoidance. The kind that can look at your depth and say, I can meet you there. That is why almost love did not work. It was never meant to be your permanent home. It was teaching you to stop settling before the right union arrived. And once you stop worshiping almost, you begin to see the next layer. Before the right union can fully enter, your soul has to heal one of the oldest misunderstandings about love. The belief that if love is deep, it must hurt. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter. Almost love was teaching you to stop settling. It showed you the pain of being nearly chosen, nearly held, nearly understood, but never fully met. The emotional truth is simple. Almost is not enough for the soul that was made for aligned union. A sign is not presence. Potential is not commitment. Hidden feelings are not emotional safety. Intensity is not the same as consistency. The right union will not ask you to survive on fragments. It will meet you in fullness. Chapter 4. You had to stop confusing pain with depth. I used to believe the deepest love had to feel overwhelming. Not peaceful. Not steady. Not easy to breathe inside. Overwhelming. The kind of love that made my chest tight. The kind that kept me awake at night. The kind that made me replay conversations until the words lost shape. The kind that made silence feel like a punishment and a single message feel like salvation. For a long time, I thought that was depth. I thought if someone could affect me that strongly, they must have mattered in a sacred way. I thought if my body reacted so intensely, if my heart raced, if my thoughts kept circling back to them, no matter how hard I tried to focus on something else, then surely it meant something. Surely that kind of pain had purpose. Surely that kind of longing was not random. Maybe you have felt that too. Maybe there was someone who entered your life and suddenly your whole emotional world became louder. When they were warm, you felt alive. Not just happy. Alive. Like all the dull places inside you had color again. Their attention could change the texture of your entire day. A short message from them could make your body soften. A smile could stay with you for hours. Eye contact could make time feel strange, like something inside you recognized them before your mind had enough evidence. And when they pulled away, everything changed. Your stomach dropped. Your chest tightened. Your mind became a room full of open tabs. Your nervous system started searching for danger in every detail. A shorter reply. A different tone. A pause that lasted too long. A silence that felt heavier than it should have. And suddenly, you were not just missing them. You were trying to survive the absence of their warmth. Pause there, because that is where many of us confuse pain with depth. We think, if this hurts so much, it must be love. But sometimes pain is not proof of love. Sometimes pain is proof that an old wound has been activated. Sometimes the connection feels deep because it reaches into places that were already hurting. Sometimes the person does not create the wound. They expose where it still lives. And that is difficult to admit. It is much easier to say, this is a soul connection. It is harder to say, this connection is showing me how unsafe love still feels in my body. Both can be true. A connection can be meaningful and still activate survival. A person can matter and still not be good for your nervous system. A bond can feel spiritual and still be tangled with attachment pain. A relationship can awaken you and still not be the right union. That emotional contradiction is hard to hold. But if you want to understand why nothing worked out before, you have to look at this layer honestly. Some connections did not last because your soul contract refused to let pain become your definition of love. It would not let you build a future around anxiety. It would not let you marry a wound. It would not let you call emotional chaos destiny forever. At first, that can feel cruel. Because when you are attached to someone who brings both ecstasy and pain, the pain starts feeling like part of the proof. You think, I have never felt this way before. And maybe that is true. But what exactly are you feeling? Are you feeling love? Or are you feeling withdrawal? Are you feeling soul recognition? Or are you feeling the terror of abandonment? Are you feeling destiny? Or are you feeling the nervous system high that comes from being given warmth inconsistently? Those questions may feel uncomfortable. Let them. They are not here to destroy the meaning of your past. They are here to separate the sacred from the survival. Because for many chosen ones, the heart has been trained to associate love with tension. You may have learned early that affection could disappear without warning. You may have learned to scan people's moods before speaking. You may have learned that closeness came with conditions. You may have learned that being easy, understanding, quiet, and emotionally useful made people stay longer. So when someone comes into your life and gives you inconsistent affection, something in your body recognizes the rhythm. Warmth, distance, hope, fear, relief, ache. It feels familiar, and the body can mistake familiar for meant. That sentence hurts. The body can mistake familiar for meant. Not because you are foolish, because your nervous system is trying to make sense of love through the patterns it has already known. So if uncertainty was familiar, uncertainty may feel magnetic. If earning love was familiar, emotionally unavailable people may feel irresistible. If abandonment was familiar, someone's distance may make you want to prove yourself rather than walk away. If chaos was familiar, peace may feel strange at first. Too quiet, too simple, too unstimulating. You might even call it boring. But maybe it is not boring. Maybe it is safe. Maybe your body just has not learned how to trust safety yet. Raw honesty? Sometimes we chase the person who activates us and ignore the person who could actually love us steadily. Not because we want pain. No one consciously wants to suffer. But activation can feel like chemistry when you have never known calm intimacy. The racing heart. The obsession. The constant replaying. The emotional highs after silence. The relief when they finally return. It can all feel like passion. But passion that depends on fear will eventually exhaust you. It does not nourish the soul. It drains it. And maybe you know exactly how that feels. You begin losing sleep. You check your phone more than you want to admit. You cannot fully enjoy time with friends because part of your attention is elsewhere. You read messages like they are sacred texts. You try to decode whether a period at the end of a sentence means distance. You feel embarrassed by how much their mood affects yours. You say, "I'm okay," but your body is not okay. Your shoulders are tense. Your jaw is tight. Your breathing is shallow. Your stomach feels like it is holding a secret. That is not the body resting in love. That is the body bracing for loss. And a soul contract aligned with the right union will not let you confuse bracing with belonging forever. It will keep closing doors that keep your body in survival, even if your heart begs to keep them open. That may be why certain relationships collapsed. Not because there was no connection, but because the connection was teaching you to stop worshiping pain. You may have called it intensity. Your soul called it instability. You may have called it passion. Your body called it panic. You may have called it destiny. Your higher self whispered, "This is not the home." There is a difference between a love that stretches you and a love that destabilizes you. Healthy love may challenge you. It may reveal wounds. It may ask you to communicate more honestly. It may make you confront old defenses. It may bring up fear, yes, but it does not keep you in constant emotional starvation. It does not require you to chase clarity like oxygen. It does not make your needs feel like threats. It does not make your body live in a cycle of craving and collapse. A connection that constantly destabilizes you may be deep in impact. But depth of impact is not the same as depth of love. Read that again slowly. Depth of impact is not the same as depth of love. Some people impact you because they touch your wound. Some impact you because they awaken your growth. Some impact you because they mirror what you have not healed. Some impact you because they are part of your soul's preparation. But the right union does more than impact you. It can hold you. Not perfectly. No human love is perfect. But steadily enough that your soul does not have to become smaller to survive it. Almost love made you question your needs. Painful love made you question your worth. Chaotic love made you question your intuition. The right union will still ask you to grow, but it will not make you feel ashamed for wanting emotional safety. And this is where your soul contract may have been protecting you all along. It knew you had a tendency to spiritualize pain. It knew you could endure too much. It knew you could make excuses for people whose love came in fragments. It knew you could sense the good in someone and stay attached to that potential longer than your body could handle. It knew you might call the ache proof. So it interrupted. Again and again. A door closed. A relationship ended. A person disappeared. A connection that felt powerful could not become permanent. And you thought, why does love keep leaving? But perhaps your soul was saying, I will not let you stay where pain is being mistaken for purpose. That is hard mercy. The kind that hurts before it saves you. Maybe there was someone you wanted so badly to be the one. You felt the pull. The chemistry. The strange timing. The moments that felt impossible to explain. But you also felt the anxiety. The inconsistency. The emotional hunger. The way your confidence started depending on how they treated you that day. The way you became careful around them. Careful with your words. Careful with your needs. Careful with your truth. Careful not to scare them away. That carefulness is information. Love should not require you to become a quieter version of yourself just to keep someone close. Love should not make you feel like one honest sentence could ruin everything. Love should not turn you into someone who watches another person's energy like weather, adjusting your entire inner world around their shifts. And yet many of us have called that love. We called it depth because it consumed us. We called it sacred because it hurt. We called it rare because we could not let go. We called it destiny because the attachment felt stronger than logic. But the soul knows when love has become a wound you keep returning to. It knows, even when you do not want to know. You may try to force the relationship to work. You may pray for them to change. You may wait for a softer version of them to become permanent. You may keep remembering the beautiful moments and use them to excuse the painful pattern. But your soul keeps feeling the misalignment. A heaviness after contact. A sadness after hoping. A strange exhaustion after trying to be patient. A quiet inner voice that says, this is not how peace feels. And the more you ignore that voice, the louder life becomes. The relationship gets more confusing. The silence gets more painful. The pattern becomes harder to deny. Not because the universe is punishing you, because something in you is trying to wake up. Pain becomes a teacher when we stop making it an altar. That is the shift. Pain can teach. Pain can reveal. Pain can show you where your body still expects love to leave. Pain can show you where you still abandon yourself. Pain can show you where your standards collapse in the presence of chemistry. But pain is not meant to become a permanent place of worship. You are not meant to stay forever at the feet of what hurts you and call it devotion. You are meant to listen, to learn, to rise, to say, I understand what this revealed, but I will not make a home inside the wound. That is where your soul contract was guiding you. Away from the addiction to intensity, toward the capacity for peace. And peace may feel strange at first. Let's be honest. If your past relationships trained your body to expect emotional storms, calm love can feel suspicious. You may wonder where the spark is. You may question whether you are attracted enough. You may miss the adrenaline. You may confuse the absence of panic with the absence of passion. But real passion does not need to threaten your nervous system. Real depth does not need to keep you guessing. Real love does not need to keep disappearing, so its return feels intoxicating. A steady love may not give you the same withdrawal high as someone inconsistent, but it may give you something your soul has been starving for. Rest. A place to breathe. A room where your nervous system does not have to stand guard. That kind of love can feel unfamiliar, even vulnerable, because when someone is consistent, you cannot hide behind the chase anymore. You have to receive. You have to let yourself be seen without proving. You have to stop confusing drama with desire. You have to let intimacy become quiet enough to feel real. And maybe that is why the painful relationships had to end first. They showed you what your body could no longer survive. They made you tired of confusion. They made you tired of almost. They made you tired of needing love to come with an ache. They made you finally ask, what would love feel like if I did not have to earn it through suffering? That question opens a new path. A softer one. A stronger one. A path toward the right union. Not the most dramatic union. Not the one that makes you feel like you are losing your mind. Not the one that turns every day into emotional weather. The right union. The one that has room for your sensitivity. The one that does not make you apologize for having needs. The one that can look at your depth and not call it too much. The one that can hold eye contact without using it as a substitute for action. The one that can speak clearly. Stay present. Repair. Grow. Choose. Again and again. Because choice is what pain-based connections often lack. They may have intensity. They may have longing. They may have magnetic pull. They may even have love. But without choice, without consistency, without responsibility, the connection remains unstable. The right union is not only felt. It is chosen. It shows up in behavior. It becomes real in the small things. A steady voice. A return call. An honest conversation. A willingness to stay when things get uncomfortable. A person who does not punish you with silence because they are overwhelmed. A person who can say, I need time, without disappearing. A person who can hear your hurt without making you regret speaking. These things may seem less exciting than chaos, but they are sacred in a quieter way. And after enough pain, quiet sacredness becomes beautiful. You start noticing how your body responds differently. No stomach drop. No constant scanning. No need to perform. No urge to prove you are worth staying for. Your shoulders soften. Your breath deepens. Your mind is not racing after every interaction. You can go about your day without wondering if love is slipping away. That is not boring. That is nervous system safety. And nervous system safety is one of the foundations of the right union. Not because the right union will never challenge you. It will. Real love always reveals. But it will not confuse revelation with harm. It will not use your wounds against you. It will not make your healing feel like too much work. It will not require you to abandon peace to maintain the connection. That is what your soul contract was waiting for. A union where depth and safety can exist together. For a long time, maybe you thought you had to choose. Either deep love that hurts, or safe love that feels shallow. But what if that belief came from your wounds? What if the right union is both deep and safe, passionate and peaceful, spiritual and practical, awakening and grounding, tender and truthful, exciting without being destabilizing, sacred without being chaotic? That is possible. But to receive it, you had to stop romanticizing the kind of love that kept your body in survival. You had to stop calling the ache a sign. You had to stop confusing missing someone with being meant for them. You had to stop letting pain be the evidence. You had to let your body's distress matter. That last part is important. Your body's distress matters. If a connection repeatedly makes you sick with anxiety, that is information. If your chest tightens every time you think about asking for clarity, that is information. If you feel more alive when they validate you and worthless when they withdraw, that is information. If love only feels good when you are being chosen in the moment, that is information. Your body is not trying to ruin your spiritual connection. It is trying to tell you how the connection is affecting the human being who has to live inside it. You are not just a soul. You're also a body, a nervous system, a heart with history, a person who deserves care in real life. The right union will honor that. The wrong one may only awaken your soul while exhausting your body. And your soul contract knows the difference. It knows that union is not complete if your spirit feels pulled but your body feels unsafe. It knows that love is not aligned if your purpose shrinks under its weight. It knows that no matter how intense the connection is, it cannot be the right union if it requires you to live in fear. So nothing worked out before because the relationships built on pain could not pass the deeper test. They could not become home. They could not hold your whole self. They could not meet your soul without triggering your survival system into exhaustion. They could not give you the kind of love your destiny requires. Not because they were meaningless, because they were incomplete. They showed you the wound. They showed you the pattern. They showed you the cost of confusing pain with depth. And once you saw it, your soul could not let you stay blind. Maybe that is why the endings felt so final, even when your heart still wanted to negotiate. Maybe that is why the door closed even when you thought there was more love left. Maybe that is why the connection kept breaking at the same place. The same silence. The same avoidance. The same emotional crash. The same fear of being too much. The same pattern saying, look again. This is not peace. And maybe now, after all of it, you are beginning to believe something new. Love does not have to hurt to be real. Depth does not have to destroy you. A soul connection does not have to make your body feel unsafe. The right union will not demand that you sacrifice your nervous system on the altar of chemistry. Let that sentence stay with you. The right union will not demand that you sacrifice your nervous system on the altar of chemistry. It will not punish you for wanting consistency. It will not make you ashamed of needing reassurance. It will not make you chase basic emotional care. It will not turn silence into a weapon and call it space. It will not make you feel like peace is impossible. And when you finally understand this, your past starts to look different. The painful relationships were not proof that love is supposed to hurt. They were proof that your soul was teaching you what love cannot be. The anxiety was not proof of destiny. It was proof that something needed attention. The heartbreak was not proof you were unlovable. It was proof that your heart was learning to stop confusing intensity with alignment. And yes, it may still ache to remember. There may still be people you miss. There may still be moments you wish had turned out differently. There may still be a part of you that wonders why the connection had to hurt so much if it was not meant to become home. Let that part be tender. Let it cry if it needs to. Let it admit, I wanted it to be them. There is no shame in that. You wanted love. You wanted the person who awakened you to also be the person who stayed. You wanted the intensity to become safety. You wanted the pain to have a beautiful ending. That is human. But sometimes the beautiful ending is not that the painful connection finally works. Sometimes the beautiful ending is that you finally stop choosing pain as proof of love. Sometimes the miracle is not them coming back. Sometimes the miracle is you no longer abandoning yourself for the kind of love that made you beg to breathe. That is sacred. That is growth. That is the soul contract doing its work. Quietly, painfully, mercifully, it was leading you away from connections that activated your wounds but could not hold your healing. It was preparing you for a union where love does not feel like survival. And once you stop worshiping pain, you begin to see why certain doors had to close before they could trap you in the wrong life. A life where you were always waiting, always proving, always bracing, always calling chaos passion, always explaining away the heaviness in your body. But your soul wanted more for you. It wanted love that could meet your depth without making you drown in it. It wanted union that could awaken you and steady you. It wanted a connection where peace did not mean lack. It meant safety. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter: you had to stop confusing pain with depth. The emotional truth is simple. Pain is not proof of sacred love. Sometimes pain reveals an old wound, an unsafe pattern, or a connection that activates you more than it can hold you. The right union will not keep your nervous system in survival. It may challenge you, awaken you, and mirror you. But it will also create space for peace, communication, consistency, and emotional safety. Love does not have to destroy you to be deep. Chapter 5. Closed doors were protecting the life your soul contract was building. I used to hate closed doors. I really did. I hated the unanswered message. The plan that fell apart for no reason. The person who pulled away right when I thought things were finally becoming real. The relationship that ended before I felt ready to let it go. It felt cruel. Like life was teasing me with love, letting me feel the warmth of something almost beautiful, then taking it away before I could fully hold it. And maybe you know that feeling. Maybe there was someone you tried so hard to keep. You were patient. You were understanding. You gave them space when you wanted closeness. You softened your voice when you wanted answers. You made excuses when your body was already tired. You stayed hopeful long after the relationship stopped giving you peace. You kept thinking, if I just give it more time, if I just love them better, if I just don't pressure them, if I just stay calm, if I just understand their wounds, maybe it will work. Maybe this door will finally open. But the door did not open. Or if it did, it only opened halfway. Just enough to keep you standing there. Just enough to make you believe something was still possible. Just enough for your heart to say, don't leave yet. And then somehow it closed again. The message stopped coming. The energy changed. The conversation never happened. The person drifted into silence. The future you were imagining began dissolving right in front of you. And you were left with that familiar ache. The one that sits low in the chest. The one that makes you wonder if you are asking for too much from love. The one that makes you stare at old conversations, looking for the exact moment everything changed. Pause there. Because closed doors rarely feel like protection while they are closing. They feel like rejection. They feel like humiliation. They feel like another reminder that love gets close but never stays. You may have asked yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep meeting people who cannot meet me fully? Why does every connection start with promise and end with confusion? Why does the door close right when I begin to trust it? And maybe in the most vulnerable moments, you wondered, is life protecting me, or am I just not meant to be loved? That question is painful. It is the kind of question people carry quietly. They do not say it out loud because it sounds too raw, too exposed, too honest. But the heart asks it anyway. Especially after too many closed doors. Especially after you have watched people leave who once seemed so sure of you. Especially after you have prayed for clarity and received silence. Especially after you have tried your best and still ended up alone with the lesson. But chosen one, listen gently. A closed door is not always proof that love rejected you. Sometimes it is proof that your soul contract was protecting the life being built ahead of you. A life you could not see yet. A version of you that had not fully arrived yet. A future that would have been quietly damaged if the wrong person had been allowed to stay. That is hard to understand when you still miss them. It is hard to see protection in the middle of heartbreak. When someone leaves, you usually do not think, "This is saving my destiny." You think, "Why wasn't I enough?" When a relationship ends, you do not immediately think, "My soul is redirecting me." You think, "What did I do wrong?" When a door closes, you do not usually feel peace. You feel the slam, the shock, the silence after it, the little emotional aftershocks that come in waves. One moment you are okay. The next you are brushing your teeth, or washing a cup, or walking through a grocery aisle, and suddenly a memory comes back. A laugh, a scent, a place, a message. The way they looked at you once when everything still felt possible. And your body reacts before your mind can stop it. Your throat tightens. Your stomach drops. Your eyes burn. Not because you want to go backward exactly, but because some part of you is still grieving the life you thought might happen through that door. That is what closed doors make us mourn. Not only the person, the timeline, the version of life where they stayed, the version where they became ready, the version where they almost became whole, the version where your heart did not have to start over again. But what if that timeline was not aligned? What if the life you imagined with them would have required you to abandon parts of yourself your soul contract was trying to preserve? What if keeping that door open would have cost you more than losing it? That is the deeper layer. Sometimes closed doors protect you from relationships that look like love in the beginning, but slowly pull you away from your purpose. Not violently, not dramatically, slowly, one compromise at a time. You start silencing your needs because they are not ready to hear them. You start making your world smaller because their emotional capacity cannot hold your depth. You start doubting your intuition because they keep giving you just enough affection to confuse you. You start putting your dreams, creativity, healing, and peace on pause because the relationship keeps needing your emotional labor. You start becoming the version of yourself that can survive them, not the version of yourself that can thrive. And that is where the soul steps in, not always gently, sometimes through an ending, sometimes through distance, sometimes through a rejection that breaks your heart but saves your future. Raw honesty? There are people we would have chosen in a wounded season who could never have walked with our healed life. There are doors we would have forced open if the universe had not locked them from the other side. There are relationships we prayed to keep that would have slowly trained us to betray ourselves. There are people we called the one because they activated our longing, but our soul knew they were not aligned with our becoming. That is hard mercy, the kind that does not feel like grace until much later. Maybe you tried to force a door open. You sent the message. You waited. You explained. You forgave. You gave another chance. You ignored the heaviness. You told yourself every relationship has challenges. You convinced yourself your discomfort was just fear. But deep down your body knew. There was a pressure in your chest after every confusing conversation. A tiredness after every cycle. A strange sadness after receiving the bare minimum. A small voice whispering, "This is not where you can become fully yourself." You may have ignored that voice. Many of us do. We ignore it because the heart wants what it wants. We ignore it because potential can be intoxicating. We ignore it because being chosen by someone unavailable can feel like finally winning an old battle. We ignore it because we want the person who awakened the ache to also be the person who heals it. So the soul contract becomes louder. The door closes. Not because you were weak. Because you were still attached. Not because you were unworthy. Because the connection was not worthy of your future. Let that land. Not every person who wants access to your heart is aligned with your destiny. Not every person who creates chemistry can walk with your calling. Not every person who touches your soul has the capacity to honor your life. Some people can only meet you in a chapter. They cannot meet you in the whole story. And if you keep them past their chapter, you may start rewriting yourself to make them fit. This is why closed doors matter. They keep temporary people from becoming permanent distractions. They keep emotional chemistry from becoming a lifelong compromise. They keep almost love from becoming your standard. They keep you from building a home in a place where your soul was only meant to learn a lesson. A closed door may be the soul contract saying, not this path, not this pattern, not this version of love, not this life, not the future where you become smaller to keep someone close. At first, that sounds harsh, but underneath it is protection. Think about the relationships that did not work out. Really think about them. Not only the beautiful beginning, not only the moments that made you hope. Think about the whole truth. How did you feel near the end? Were you peaceful? Or were you constantly analyzing? Were you becoming more yourself? Or were you shrinking? Were you sleeping well? Or were you lying awake, replaying conversations? Could you speak honestly? Or did you edit your feelings so they would not leave? Did the relationship expand your life? Or did it make your world orbit around their moods? These questions are not meant to make you bitter. They are meant to help you see why the door may have closed. Sometimes we grieve a relationship through the memory of its best moments. But our soul remembers the whole pattern. The beginning may have felt like destiny. The middle may have felt like confusion. The end may have felt like abandonment. And the soul saw all of it. It saw what your heart wanted. It also saw what your body was enduring. It saw the future you were trying to build. It also saw the version of you that future would require. If that version was smaller, quieter, more anxious, more disconnected from your truth, the door had to close. Not because love was absent, because alignment was absent. And alignment is what your soul contract cares about. Not just desire. Not just attraction. Not just the ache of wanting someone. Alignment. Can this person meet the purpose of your life? Can this connection support your healing instead of reopening the same wound? Can this union hold your sensitivity without making you apologize for it? Can it honor your truth? Can it create a place where both people grow? Can it stand in the human world, not only in fantasy, longing, or spiritual signs? If not, the soul contract will start redirecting. Even if you cry, even if you resist, even if you call it unfair, even if you think, but I love them. Love is powerful. But love without alignment can become a beautiful trap. A trap made of memories, chemistry, potential, hope. The belief that if you just endure a little longer, something will finally change. And sometimes nothing changes except you. You become more tired, more unsure, more afraid to ask for what you need, more willing to accept less because you have already invested so much. That is not the life your soul is building. Your soul is not building a life where you survive love. It is building a life where love can meet you without diminishing you. So the door closes. And yes, it hurts. It may even feel like life is taking away the only person you wanted. But later, you may begin to see the quiet protection in it. Maybe the closed door protected your nervous system from years of uncertainty. Maybe it protected your purpose from being swallowed by a relationship that required constant emotional management. Maybe it protected your self-worth from being shaped by someone else's inconsistency. Maybe it protected your future partner from arriving while you were still emotionally tied to someone who could only offer fragments. Maybe it protected the right union from having to compete with a wrong attachment. That last one is important. Sometimes the wrong door must close, so the right union does not have to knock on a heart still waiting somewhere else. You may say you are ready for love. But if part of you is still standing outside a closed door, hoping it opens again, then your energy is not fully available. Not fully. Part of you is still there. Listening. Remembering. Wondering. Hoping. And the soul contract knows this. It knows when your body is physically free but emotionally attached. It knows when you are saying, I have moved on, but secretly still hoping the old person returns as the new version. It knows when your future is being blocked by your loyalty to a possibility. So the closed door becomes more obvious, more final, more impossible to misread. Not to punish you, to release you. Because sometimes we do not release what is unclear. We release what life makes undeniable. And perhaps that was the gift hidden in the closing. It finally showed you what the relationship could not become. It stopped you from negotiating with potential. It ended the emotional waiting room. It forced you to face the truth. If this was the right union, I would not have to keep abandoning myself to keep it alive. That sentence may ache, but it is freedom. Because once you accept that, you can stop trying to turn a closed door into a destiny. You can stop pressing your hands against something that no longer opens. You can stop asking the past to become a future it was never built to hold. You can turn around, slowly, with tears maybe, with trembling hands, with a heart that still remembers. But you can turn around, and when you do, you may see something you could not see while staring at the closed door. A path, quiet at first, not dramatic, not glowing with certainty, just a path back to yourself, back to your breath, back to your body, back to your purpose, back to the life your soul contract has been trying to build. This path may not feel exciting at first. It may feel lonely. You might miss the emotional intensity. You might miss having someone to hope around. You might miss the fantasy because fantasy gave your pain somewhere to go. But over time, the quiet path starts giving you something the closed door never did. Peace. A strange, unfamiliar peace. The kind where you do not have to decode someone's silence. The kind where your body is not waiting for the next emotional drop. The kind where you can hear your own thoughts again. The kind where your life slowly becomes yours again. That peace is not empty. It is space. Space for your healing. Space for your purpose. Space for the right union. Space for someone who does not need you to shrink in order to stay. And that is what your soul contract was protecting. The space. The future. The version of you that can finally receive aligned love. Maybe you could not have protected that version yet. Maybe you were too attached, too hopeful, too willing to see the good, too willing to stay in the almost. So life protected it for you. Through the ending, through the silence, through the closed door, through the relationship that refused to work no matter how much you cared. At the time, it felt like loss. Later, it may feel like intervention. A sacred interruption, a boundary drawn by something wiser than your longing. And if you are still grieving a closed door, be gentle with yourself. Do not rush to call it a blessing if it still feels like heartbreak. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to miss them. You are allowed to wish it had gone differently. You are allowed to admit that part of you still wanted that door to open. Healing does not mean pretending you did not care. It means allowing yourself to care without using that care as proof you should go back. You can love someone and still accept that the door closed for a reason. You can miss them and still know the relationship was not safe for your becoming. You can honor what was beautiful and still refuse to ignore what was misaligned. You can grieve the timeline and still trust that your soul was protecting you from it. That is emotional maturity. Not denying the pain, not glorifying the ending. Holding both, the love and the lesson, the beauty and the misalignment, the grief and the protection, the memory and the future. Because the closed door may not erase what was real. It simply reveals that what was real was not enough for the right union. Real feelings are not always enough. Real chemistry is not always enough. Real connection is not always enough. The right union requires alignment. And alignment asks a deeper question. Can this love walk with the life your soul is building? If the answer is no, the door may close even when the heart still wants it open. That does not mean your heart was wrong for loving. It means your soul was right for protecting. There is a difference. Your heart loved what it could see. Your soul protected what you could not yet see. Your heart saw the person. Your soul saw the path. Your heart saw the moments. Your soul saw the lifetime. Your heart wanted the door. Your soul knew where it led. And sometimes the soul will choose the path over the person. Not because the person did not matter. Because the path matters too. Your purpose matters. Your peace matters. Your future matters. The right union matters. And the right union cannot be built on a foundation of self-betrayal. So closed doors become sacred boundaries. They say, you cannot build here. Not because you are not worthy of a home. Because this ground cannot hold the home your soul is building. That is a powerful reframe. The closed door did not mean there is no home for you. It meant, not here. not in confusion, not in emotional scarcity, not in a relationship where you have to beg for clarity, not in a connection where your body is constantly bracing, not in a love that asks you to forget your purpose, not in a union that only works when you become less honest. Not here. And if not here, then somewhere more aligned. Someone more capable. A union more truthful. A love that can hold the version of you your soul is shaping. Maybe you cannot see that yet. That is okay. You do not have to see the entire future to trust that a closed door saved you from the wrong one. Sometimes trust begins very small. It begins with not sending one more message. It begins with letting silence remain silent. It begins with no longer replaying the same conversation, hoping for a different conclusion. It begins with whispering, maybe this ending is not proof that I am unloved. Maybe this ending is protection. Maybe this door closed because my soul contract is building something I cannot yet imagine. Maybe what I wanted would have cost me what I am becoming. Maybe the right union needs space that this attachment was occupying. Maybe love did not fail me. Maybe love filtered. That is enough for today. You do not have to be fully healed. You do not have to feel grateful yet. You only have to allow one small possibility into the wound. This closed door may have been protecting me. And as that possibility grows, your past begins to soften. Not because it stops hurting, because it starts making sense. You begin to see how certain relationships would have trapped you in old patterns. You begin to see how some people could only love the version of you who did not know your worth yet. You begin to see how some doors opened toward lives where your soul would have slowly gone quiet. You begin to see how every ending cleared another piece of the path. And slowly, the grief becomes less like punishment, more like release. You stop standing at the door. You begin walking. Not because you stopped loving, because you started trusting that your soul contract knows the difference between a connection that teaches you and a union that can meet you. And that is where your power returns. Not in forcing doors. Not in convincing someone to stay. Not in turning a closed chapter into a lifelong obsession. Your power returns when you realize that what is truly aligned will not require you to break yourself to enter. Chosen one, the closed doors were protecting the life your soul contract was building. They were protecting your peace, your purpose, your nervous system, your future, your ability to recognize love that does not make you shrink. They were protecting the right union from being blocked by the wrong attachment. And one day, when you stand inside a love that feels honest, safe, mutual, and aligned, you may understand why the other doors had to close. You may whisper, with tears in your eyes, "Now I see." Not because the old pain was meaningless, but because it was not the end. It was a redirection, a sacred boundary, a hidden form of love from your own soul. And once you understand that protection is not only about keeping the wrong people away, you begin to see the next layer. Your soul was also preparing you emotionally for the one who can meet you differently. Not just someone you desire, someone you are actually ready to receive. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter: closed doors were not always rejection. Sometimes they were protection. The emotional truth is simple. Some doors close because they lead to a life your soul can no longer inhabit. A relationship can feel meaningful and still not be aligned with your destiny. A person can awaken love and still be unable to walk with your purpose. A connection can be real and still require too much self-abandonment to survive. Your soul contract was protecting the life being built ahead of you. And sometimes the door had to close so you could stop knocking on what was never meant to become home. Chapter 6. Your soul was waiting for emotional readiness, not just romantic desire. There was a time when I thought wanting love meant I was ready for it. I wanted the connection, the closeness, the softness, the reassurance, the kind of person who would look at me and make all the old waiting feel worth it. I wanted someone who would stay, not just physically, emotionally, someone who would not make me guess, someone who would not disappear when the conversation became honest, someone who would not make me feel like my need for clarity was a burden. And because I wanted it so deeply, I assumed I was ready. I thought longing was readiness. I thought loneliness was readiness. I thought the ache in my chest meant, I am prepared now. I have waited enough. I have suffered enough. I have learned enough. Bring the right union. But slowly, through endings, through silence, through people who came close and still could not stay, through nights when I wanted love more than I wanted truth, I started to understand something much harder. Wanting love and being ready to receive love are not the same thing. Pause there, because that sentence can feel unfair when you have waited a long time. You may think, how could I not be ready? I have been through so much. I have healed. I have prayed. I have cried. I have released people I never thought I could release. And maybe you have. Maybe you have done more inner work than anyone around you knows. Maybe you have sat alone with memories that almost broke you. Maybe you have chosen silence when your whole body wanted to chase. Maybe you have let go of people your heart still loved. Maybe you have rebuilt yourself from emotional places nobody ever saw. So this is not about saying you were not worthy. You were always worthy. This is about capacity. The soul contract was not waiting for you to become lovable. You already were. It was waiting for you to become emotionally ready to hold the kind of love you were asking for without losing yourself inside it. That is different. Very different. Because sometimes we want love from the wound. We want someone to come in and make us feel chosen. We want someone to stop the loneliness. We want someone to prove the past wrong. We want someone to look at every place we were abandoned and say, I will never do that to you. And that desire is human. It is tender. It is understandable. But if love arrives while the wound is still leading, even safe love can feel unsafe. Even consistent love can feel suspicious. Even gentle love can feel boring to a nervous system addicted to chaos. Even the right person can be pushed away by the part of you that does not yet know how to receive without bracing. Maybe you have seen this in yourself. Someone kind comes close, and instead of relaxing, you question it. You wonder what they really want. You search for the hidden shift. You wait for their warmth to disappear. You feel uncomfortable when things are steady, because steadiness does not create the same emotional high as uncertainty. And then someone inconsistent appears. Someone who gives warmth in pieces. Someone who is hard to read. Someone whose silence activates your fear. And suddenly your body lights up. Not necessarily with peace. With urgency. With hunger. With the old familiar chase. And because the feeling is intense, you might think, this must be deeper. But sometimes it is not deeper. Sometimes it is simply more familiar to your wound. Raw honesty? Many of us say we want healthy love, but our nervous system still recognizes unstable love first. We say we want consistency, but consistency can feel strange when we are used to earning affection. We say we want emotional safety, but safety can feel too quiet when chaos has been our proof of chemistry. We say we want someone who stays, but when someone does stay, we may test them, doubt them, pull away, overthink, or wait for the other shoe to drop. Not because we are broken, because our bodies learned love through survival. That is why emotional readiness matters. Your soul was not only waiting for the right person. It was waiting for you to become able to recognize the right person without confusing peace for lack. It was waiting for your body to stop calling anxiety spark. It was waiting for your heart to stop mistaking inconsistency for mystery. It was waiting for your inner world to become steady enough that love would not have to become your emotional oxygen. Think about that. If the right union had arrived while your peace still depended on being chosen, what would have happened? You might have clung. You might have overgiven. You might have silenced your needs so the connection would not be disturbed. You might have made their mood the center of your day. You might have been so afraid to lose them that you would slowly lose yourself. And then the right union would not feel like a blessing. It would feel like pressure. A beautiful pressure, maybe. But still pressure. Because when you are not emotionally ready, love becomes something you must secure. You try to hold it tightly. You watch it. Measure it. Test it. Fear it. You become hyper-aware of every shift. A shorter text. A quiet evening. A distracted tone. A delayed reply. And suddenly the old wound says, it is happening again. Even if it is not. even if the person is just tired, even if the silence is not rejection, even if love is still there. Your nervous system does not know that yet. It reacts to the past inside the present. So your soul contract begins preparing you, not through perfect circumstances, often through discomfort. It teaches you emotional regulation through waiting. It teaches you discernment through almost love. It teaches you boundaries through people who tested them. It teaches you self-trust through moments where nobody else could give you clarity. It teaches you how to soothe your own body when the old fear rises. Not because you should have to do everything alone forever, but because the right union should add to your peace, not become the only source of it. There is a difference, a very sacred one. When someone becomes your only source of peace, you begin fearing their absence. When someone adds to the peace you are already building, love has room to breathe. It does not become a cage. It does not become a test every day. It does not become a place where one small silence makes you question your entire worth. And maybe that is what your soul was waiting for. Not for your desire to become stronger. Your desire was already strong. It was waiting for your self-belonging to become stronger than your fear of being alone. Because if loneliness is still the thing choosing for you, you may choose anyone who feels close. Anyone who gives relief. Anyone who makes the emptiness less loud. Anyone who offers a little warmth after a cold season. You may call that love. But sometimes it is escape. Escape from the quiet. Escape from your own ache. Escape from the deeper work of becoming whole enough to receive without begging. This does not mean you need to be perfectly healed before love arrives. No, that is not realistic. No one enters union with every wound completely resolved. The right union will still reveal places that need care. It will still ask for honesty. It will still bring up vulnerability. It may still trigger old fears sometimes. But emotional readiness means you no longer let those fears lead the whole relationship. You can feel scared and still communicate. You can feel triggered and still pause. You can feel the old abandonment wound rise and still say, "This is old. Let me breathe before I react." You can need reassurance without demanding that another person become responsible for your entire nervous system. You can love deeply without disappearing. That is readiness, not perfection. Capacity. Capacity to stay present. Capacity to speak truth. Capacity to receive care. Capacity to hold love without turning it into control. Capacity to let someone close without making them your whole identity. And this capacity is built slowly, quietly, through the exact seasons you thought were delaying you. Maybe you had to learn how to eat again when heartbreak stole your appetite. Maybe you had to learn how to sleep without waiting for a message. Maybe you had to learn how to stop checking whether someone was online. Maybe you had to learn how to sit with jealousy without letting it turn into accusation. Maybe you had to learn how to ask for clarity without apologizing for needing it. Maybe you had to learn that boundaries do not push the right love away. They protect the conditions where the right love can grow. That last one matters. A lot of us believed that boundaries were dangerous. We thought if we had needs, people would leave. If we asked questions, they would shut down. If we expressed hurt, they would call us dramatic. If we said no, they would find someone easier. So we became easy. Too easy. We became the person who understood everything. The person who waited. The person who accepted vague answers. The person who tried to be mature while secretly feeling abandoned. The person who said, "It's okay," when it was not okay. But emotional readiness asks you to become honest. Not harsh. Honest. To say, "I need consistency." To say, "Silence affects me." To say, "I can be patient, but I cannot live in confusion." To say, "I love deeply, but I will not abandon myself to keep love close." That is not neediness. That is emotional adulthood. And the right union needs that version of you. Not the version who pretends to need nothing. Not the version who accepts fragments because they fear losing the person. Not the version who spiritualizes pain until their body is exhausted. The version who can love and still tell the truth. The version who can be soft and still have boundaries. The version who can receive love without making it responsible for healing every past wound. Maybe you were not ready for that before. Again, not because you were unworthy, because you were still learning. You were learning what your body does when it feels unsafe. You were learning the difference between a trigger and intuition. You were learning how to pause before sending the message. You were learning how to let someone's inconsistency reveal them instead of becoming a challenge to win. You were learning how to stop turning every almost into a destiny. You were learning how to choose peace even when chaos felt familiar. Those lessons were not random. They were preparation. Your soul contract was quietly shaping the emotional environment needed for the right union. And sometimes that preparation looked like loss. It looked like the wrong person leaving. It looked like the door closing. It looked like being single longer than you expected. It looked like watching other people enter relationships while you were still being asked to heal another layer. It looked like thinking, why am I always the one being prepared? When do I get to be loved? That question can hurt. I know. There is a fatigue that comes from always having to be the strong one. The self-aware one. The one who understands the lesson. The one who turns pain into growth. Sometimes you do not want growth. You want arms around you. You want someone to stay. You want love that does not require another spiritual explanation. That longing is valid. But sometimes the reason love has not stayed is because your soul refuses to let you be held by arms that would eventually make you lose yourself. It is not denying the embrace. It is waiting for the embrace that can hold your whole being. The one that does not only soothe loneliness. The one that aligns with truth. And for that, emotional readiness is essential. Not just in you. In them too. But this chapter is about your side of the preparation. Can you receive love when it is steady? Can you stop needing chaos to feel chemistry? Can you speak your needs before resentment builds? Can you allow someone to care for you without immediately fearing you will owe them your self-abandonment? Can you stay open after being hurt? Can you let love be simple without assuming it is shallow? These are not small questions. They may touch every past relationship you have ever had. Because if you learned love through instability, then safe love will ask you to unlearn survival. It will ask you not to flinch when someone stays. It will ask you not to test someone just to see if they will leave. It will ask you not to sabotage peace because peace feels unfamiliar. It will ask you to let yourself be chosen without turning that choice into a debt you must repay by becoming perfect. Receiving love can be just as vulnerable as giving it. Sometimes more. Giving love lets you stay in control. You can pour. You can support. You can understand. You can be the strong one. You can be needed. Receiving love asks you to be seen. To be held. To stop performing worthiness. To trust that you do not have to earn every ounce of care. And if you have spent years earning love, being loved freely can feel terrifying. You may not know what to do with it. You may look for the catch. You may worry that if someone sees the real you, the tender you, the messy you, the emotional you, they will leave. So emotional readiness also means learning to let yourself be human in love. Not the perfect healer. Not the endlessly patient one. Not the one who always understands. Human. A person with needs. A person with fears. A person who sometimes needs reassurance. A person who sometimes gets quiet. A person who is still healing. A person who wants love to be consistent, not because they are weak, but because they know what inconsistency costs. The right union will not punish you for being human. But you have to stop punishing yourself first. You have to stop shaming yourself for wanting care. You have to stop calling every need attachment. You have to stop pretending you are above reassurance. You have to stop trying to be so spiritual that you no longer admit when something hurts. This is part of readiness too. Honest humanity. Because the right union is not built between two masks. It is built between two souls willing to be real in human bodies. With history. With tenderness. With imperfect communication sometimes. With repair. With effort. With presence. And maybe before, you were attracted to people who let you stay in familiar roles. The giver. The healer. The patient one. The one who waits. The one who understands more than they receive. The one who hopes someone will one day recognize their value and finally choose them. Those roles can feel meaningful. They can even feel spiritual. But they are not union. They are imbalance. The right union will ask you to step out of those roles. It will ask you not only to love, but to be loved. Not only to understand, but to be understood. Not only to hold space, but to let someone hold space for you. Not only to see someone else's wounds, but to let your own tenderness be seen too. That requires readiness. A different kind of courage. The courage to receive. The courage to trust peace. The courage to stop chasing intensity and choose presence. The courage to believe that love does not have to be earned through suffering. Maybe this is why previous relationships did not work. They were not only showing you who was wrong for you. They were showing you where you still were not ready to receive what was right. That is not blame. It is clarity. Maybe someone steady once came near, but you did not feel the spark. Maybe someone kind wanted to know you, but their consistency felt unfamiliar. Maybe someone emotionally available made you uncomfortable because there was no chase. Maybe peace felt too exposed. When there is no chaos, you cannot hide in longing. You have to actually be present. And presence is intimate. More intimate than obsession. Obsession lets you stay in fantasy. Presence asks you to meet reality. Safe love asks, can you be here now? Not in the past. Not in the future. Not in the wound. Here. With someone who is actually available. With someone who wants to know you. With someone who does not require you to earn every sign of affection. That can feel vulnerable in a way chaotic love never does. Chaotic love keeps you busy. Safe love invites you to rest. And for a nervous system that has lived in survival, rest can feel scary. So your soul contract gave you time. Time to learn what rest feels like. Time to stop identifying anxiety as passion. Time to understand that chemistry is not less real when it comes with peace. Time to heal the belief that love must be difficult to be deep. Time to become emotionally available for someone emotionally available. That last phrase is important. Emotionally available for someone emotionally available. Many people say they want available love, but they are still emotionally tied to unavailable patterns. Their heart is still hooked on the one who almost chose them. Their nervous system still craves the high of uncertainty. Their identity is still built around longing. Their standards still collapse in the presence of chemistry. Their body still does not trust calm. So even when available love appears, they cannot recognize it. Or they cannot receive it. Or they push it away. Your soul contract did not want the right union to arrive before you could recognize it. It did not want you to call peace boring. It did not want you to sabotage consistency. It did not want you to choose the mirror again, because the mirror felt more intense than the home. It wanted you ready. Not perfect. Ready. Ready to notice the difference between being triggered and being met. Ready to let your body exhale. Ready to stop negotiating with almost love. Ready to stop proving your worth. Ready to communicate instead of perform. Ready to receive love without turning it into a test of whether you are enough. There is a softness that comes with this readiness. You become less frantic, less impressed by emotional chaos, less attracted to people who make you wonder where you stand. You start valuing small signs of safety. A consistent tone. A clear message. A person who follows through. Someone who remembers what matters to you. Someone who does not make you feel silly for needing reassurance. Someone who can sit in silence without using it to punish. Someone whose eye contact feels grounding, not destabilizing. These things begin to feel sacred. Not boring. Sacred. Because you know what it cost you to learn their value. You know what it felt like to live on almost. You know what it felt like to confuse pain with depth. You know what it felt like to be drawn to people who awaken the wound but could not hold the healing. So when peace comes, you do not dismiss it as easily. You pause. You breathe. You ask, is this what my body has been trying to learn? Maybe. Maybe this is what readiness feels like. Not fireworks every second. Not panic. Not obsession. A steadiness. A quiet curiosity. A sense that you can be yourself without rehearsing. A feeling that your needs have room to exist. A love that does not ask you to perform emotional gymnastics just to keep it alive. This is the emotional climate the right union needs. And perhaps your soul was waiting for this climate. Waiting for the storms to settle. Waiting for your inner home to become safe enough that another person could enter without becoming responsible for repairing every broken room. Waiting for you to know which rooms are yours to heal and which rooms love can gently witness. There is a difference between being healed by love and being witnessed in healing. The right union may support your healing, but it should not be forced to become the only reason you are okay. It may soothe you, but not replace your self-trust. It may comfort you, but not become your entire identity. It may awaken your heart, but not take you away from yourself. That is mature union, and mature union requires both desire and readiness. Desire says, I want love. Readiness says, I can hold love without abandoning myself. Desire says, I want someone to stay. Readiness says, I can stay with myself too. Desire says, I want to be chosen. Readiness says, I will not unchoose myself to be chosen. Desire says, I want the right person. Readiness says, I am becoming the person who can recognize and receive the right union. That is the transformation. Not becoming someone else. Becoming someone more present inside yourself. Someone who does not hand their entire nervous system to another person. Someone who does not confuse fear with love. Someone who can communicate needs without shame. Someone who can let love be peaceful. Someone who can open without collapsing. And if you are still in this preparation, do not judge yourself. Do not think, I should be ready by now. Readiness is not a race. It is a becoming. It happens in layers. Sometimes you think you have healed something, then a new connection shows you another layer. Sometimes you feel strong alone, then intimacy reveals where fear still lives. Sometimes you are ready in your mind before your body feels safe. That is okay. The soul contract is patient in ways the human heart is not. It will not rush you into a union that your body cannot hold. It will not punish you for needing time. It will keep guiding you toward emotional capacity. Through reflection. Through boundaries. Through silence. Through relationships that show you what is not enough. Through seasons where you learn how to belong to yourself. And as you become ready, you may notice the old patterns losing their pull. The unavailable person does not feel as magical. The inconsistent message does not give the same high. The chase starts to feel tiring instead of exciting. The mystery starts to feel less romantic and more unsafe. The person who cannot communicate no longer feels like a puzzle worth solving. That is growth. Quiet, powerful growth. It means your soul is no longer attracted to the same emotional weather. It means your body is beginning to prefer peace. It means your heart is preparing for a union that does not require survival. And when that union approaches, you may not recognize it by chaos. You may recognize it by calm, by how easily you breathe, by how naturally you speak, by how little you feel the need to perform, by the absence of that old tightness in your chest, by the way your body says, this feels different. Not because it is shallow, because it is safe. So chosen one, if nothing worked out before, maybe it was not only because the people were wrong. Maybe it was also because your soul was waiting for emotional readiness. Yours. Theirs. The connections. The right union is not just about two people desiring each other. It is about two people having the capacity to meet what desire awakens. Without running. Without chasing. Without turning love into a battlefield for old wounds. Without making each other responsible for everything that still hurts. Your soul contract was waiting for a union that could hold truth. And it was preparing you to become someone who can receive that truth without fear leading the way. That preparation may have felt lonely. It may have felt slow. It may have felt like love kept passing you by. But underneath, something sacred was forming. Self-trust. Emotional regulation. Discernment. Boundaries. A deeper understanding of your body. A new relationship with peace. A softer way of loving. A stronger way of staying with yourself. These are not small things. These are the foundations of the right union. And once those foundations are in place, love has somewhere safe to land. Not on top of panic. Not inside hunger. Not through self-abandonment. But in a heart that can finally say, I want love, yes, but I am no longer asking love to save me from myself. That sentence changes everything. It changes who you choose. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how you receive. It changes the kind of union your soul can align with. And while you were becoming ready, the right union may have been moving through its own preparation too. Because real union is never one-sided. Two souls must be positioned. Two hearts must become capable. Two lives must be aligned enough for love to stand. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter. Your soul was waiting for emotional readiness, not just romantic desire. The emotional truth is simple. Wanting love is not the same as being ready to receive love. The right union requires emotional capacity, the ability to communicate, receive consistency, hold boundaries, regulate fear, and love without self-abandonment. You were never unworthy of love. You were being prepared to receive it from a place of wholeness, not hunger. The right union does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present, honest, grounded, and ready to let love feel safe. Chapter 7. The right union needed both souls to be positioned. I used to think the delay was only about me. My healing. My lessons. My readiness. My patience. My ability to stop chasing, stop overgiving, stop confusing anxiety with intuition. Stop choosing people who could only love me in fragments. For a long time, I made the entire journey about what I still needed to fix inside myself. If love had not arrived, maybe I was not healed enough. If the right union had not stayed, maybe I still had too many wounds. If the connection kept being delayed, maybe I was still missing some lesson. And that belief became heavy. Quietly heavy. The kind of heavy that makes you tired of being spiritual. Tired of finding meaning in every disappointment. Tired of being told to grow when all you wanted was to be held. Maybe you know that exhaustion. Maybe you have had moments where you whispered, I understand the lesson, but when do I get the love? Not another mirror. Not another almost. Not another person who awakens something and leaves you holding the emotional aftermath. Actual love. A real union. A person who can stand in front of you, look into your eyes, and not run from the depth they feel. And if you have been through enough failed connections, you may start believing the problem is always you. Your energy, your timing, your attachment style, your healing, your patterns, your fear, your standards, your expectations. It becomes easy to think, maybe if I just become better, calmer, more healed, more detached, more aligned, then the right union will finally arrive. But there is something important your heart needs to hear. Real union is never one-sided. It cannot be carried by one healed person and one hiding person. It cannot be built by one soul doing all the inner work while the other stays asleep inside old patterns. It cannot become safe if one person is learning emotional responsibility while the other is still running from their own reflection. The right union needs both souls to be positioned. Pause there, because that sentence carries relief. It means not every delay is your fault. Not every ending is proof that you were not ready. Not every silence is evidence that you failed the lesson. Sometimes you were becoming ready, while the other soul was still being confronted by everything they did not know how to face. Sometimes you were learning not to chase, while they were learning that running does not create freedom. Sometimes you were healing abandonment, while they were being asked to heal avoidance. Sometimes you were learning to speak your truth, while they were learning how to stop hiding from theirs. Two souls, two nervous systems, two histories, two sets of wounds, two different timelines of awakening. And for the right union to stand, both must be moved into position. Not just romantically, emotionally, spiritually, humanly, practically. Because the right union is not just a beautiful feeling between two people. It is a meeting point. A place where timing, maturity, healing, willingness, purpose, and emotional capacity finally intersect. And sometimes one soul gets there before the other. That is painful. One of the most painful things in love. To feel something deeply. To know somewhere inside you that there is a connection. To sense that this person matters. But also to see that they are not ready. Not ready to speak. Not ready to stay. Not ready to be honest. Not ready to meet the part of themselves your presence awakens. That can make you feel crazy. Because the soul feels recognition, but the human reality shows distance. Their eyes may say one thing. Their behavior may say another. Their energy may come close. Their actions may pull away. They may feel like home in one moment and become unavailable in the next. And there you are, holding the contradiction. Wondering, did I imagine the depth? Was I wrong about them? Can a person feel something real and still not be ready for it? Can the union be written into the soul contract, but still not be positioned yet? Yes. Sometimes yes. Not every meaningful connection is immediately livable. Not every soul recognition is instantly safe. Not every bond can become union the moment it is felt. A connection can be real and still require positioning. That is the part nobody wants to hear when they are longing. Because longing wants movement. Longing wants the message. Longing wants the confirmation. Longing wants the person to wake up now, choose now, speak now, return now. But positioning does not obey longing. Positioning obeys readiness. And readiness has roots. It cannot be faked for long. A person can miss you without being ready. A person can love you without being able to hold intimacy. A person can recognize your soul without having the courage to change their life. A person can feel the pull and still choose the familiar pattern because the familiar pattern feels safer than truth. That is not an excuse for them. It is not permission for you to wait in pain forever. It is simply a deeper understanding. Some people are not absent because nothing is happening. They are absent because something is happening inside them that they do not yet know how to live outwardly. Their silence may be a battlefield. Their distance may be a defense. Their normal life may be full of distractions, but somewhere beneath the surface, the mirror is still working. Maybe they are being shown their fear of vulnerability. Maybe they are being shown the emotional walls they built long before you came along. Maybe they are being shown the cost of avoiding truth. Maybe they are being shown how often they choose comfort over depth. Maybe they are being shown that no matter how far they run, they cannot fully forget the person who saw them beneath the mask. Maybe. But here is the important part. You cannot make their positioning happen faster. You cannot love someone into readiness. You cannot heal their fear by abandoning your peace. You cannot become so patient, so understanding, so available, so forgiving, that they suddenly become capable of union. Their soul has its own timing. Their wounds have their own resistance. Their awakening has its own pace. Their courage must become their own. And that can be devastating when your heart already feels ready. You may want to reach across the distance and say, I know what this is. I know you feel it too. Why are you running from it? You may want to explain the connection. Explain the signs. Explain the timing. Explain the way your body knew them before your mind could understand. But if someone is not positioned to face truth, your explanation can become pressure. Not because your truth is wrong, because their capacity is not ready to hold it. Raw honesty? Sometimes we keep trying to convince someone of a connection because we want their recognition to validate our own. We want them to say, yes, I feel it too, so we can finally stop wondering whether we were alone in it. But real union cannot be built on convincing. It has to be chosen. Freely. Consciously. With both people awake enough to say, I am willing to meet what this requires. That willingness matters. A soul contract does not only involve attraction. It involves agreement. Not always spoken. Not always conscious at first. But energetic agreement. A willingness to grow. A willingness to face the mirror. A willingness to stop using old wounds as excuses. A willingness to become emotionally responsible. A willingness to let love change the way you live, not just the way you feel. If one person is willing and the other is not, the union cannot fully land. It may hover. It may appear in signs. It may show up in dreams. It may create longing. It may create moments of almost. It may feel painfully close, but it cannot become a stable union until both souls can meet it. That is why timing can feel so unfair. You may have done so much work. You may have faced your abandonment wound. You may have stopped chasing. You may have released almost love. You may have built emotional readiness. You may have learned to stop confusing pain with depth. You may have become someone who can finally receive love without losing yourself. And still, the union may not arrive yet. Not because your work was useless. Not because you failed. Not because love is being withheld. But because another soul, another life, another nervous system, another human being may still be moving into position. And the right union cannot be forced into being by one person's readiness. That is the humbling part. You can become ready for love, but you cannot become ready for both people. You can choose healing, but you cannot choose healing for them. You can open your heart, but you cannot force someone else to open theirs. You can stop running, but you cannot stop them from running. You can stand in truth, but they must decide whether they will stand there too. This is where your soul contract asks for trust. Not passive waiting. Not abandoning your life. Not staring at the closed door. Trust that what is truly aligned will require mutual readiness, not one-sided emotional labor. Trust that the right union will not ask you to drag someone into consciousness. Trust that if they are part of the right union, their own soul will confront them in ways your chasing never could. Trust that you are allowed to live while they are being positioned. That last line matters. You are allowed to live while they are being positioned. You do not have to become the guardian of someone else's awakening. You do not have to monitor their growth from a distance. You do not have to interpret every sign as evidence that they are almost ready. You do not have to pause your joy until they become brave. You do not have to keep your heart frozen in loyalty to a possibility. If the right union needs both souls to be positioned, then your part is to stay aligned with your own becoming. Not to wait in emotional suspension. There is a difference between holding space and holding your breath. Holding space feels open. Holding your breath feels tense. Holding space says, I trust what is true to unfold. Holding your breath says, my life cannot begin until they arrive. Holding space is peaceful, even when tender. Holding your breath is survival. And many chosen ones have mistaken holding their breath for devotion. They stop dating, stop dreaming, stop creating, stop planning, stop laughing fully, stop moving forward with their life because some part of them is waiting for the other soul to catch up. They say, I am trusting the connection. But their life becomes smaller. Their world becomes quieter in the wrong way. Their energy stays tied to a person who may still be learning lessons they cannot see. That is not union. That is suspension. And your soul contract does not want suspension. It wants alignment. Alignment means you keep walking your path while trusting that what is meant can meet you there. Alignment means you do not betray your present life for a future possibility. Alignment means you let the other soul do their work without making their timeline the center of your identity. Alignment means your love remains open to truth, but your life remains yours. Can you feel the maturity in that? It is not cold. It is not giving up. It is not pretending you do not care. It is saying, I honor the possibility of this union, but I will not abandon my own becoming while another soul finds its way. That is sacred, because your becoming is part of the union too. The right union is not waiting for you to disappear into longing. It is waiting for you to stand fully in your own life. Your purpose, your peace, your body, your voice, your standards, your joy. The version of you who can meet love without making it the only reason you feel alive. Maybe that is why nothing worked out before. Some connections were not wrong only because the other person was not positioned. They also showed you how easily your life could become wrapped around someone else's unreadiness. They taught you that love cannot be your only purpose. They taught you that someone else's delayed awakening cannot become your spiritual prison. They taught you that the right union must expand your life, not suspend it. Think about the people who almost stayed. How much of your energy went into wondering what they felt? How much of your day was shaped by their silence? How many times did you put your own needs on hold, while trying to understand their process? How many dreams did you pause because your heart was still waiting for emotional clarity? How many versions of your future did you build around someone who had not yet built the capacity to meet you? No judgment, only awareness. Because awareness is how the pattern ends. You begin to realize that even if the right union is coming, your soul cannot use another person's readiness as the foundation for your peace. Your peace must be built now, before reunion, before confirmation, before the apology, before the timing makes sense, before the other soul is fully positioned. Your peace cannot wait for them to become ready. And strangely, this is often what helps the union position more cleanly. When you stop hovering energetically over someone else's process, the pressure drops. The old runner-chaser field weakens. You return your energy to your own path. They are left with their own mirror, no longer cushioned by your constant reaching, no longer softened by your endless emotional availability, no longer able to feel your energy waiting at the door of their fear. They must face themselves. Or not. But either way, you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. That is a huge shift. It changes your energy from, "Please wake up," to, "May truth find you, but I will not abandon myself while it does." It changes your prayer from, "Bring them back," to, "Align both souls with what is real, and let me keep living in the meantime." It changes your question from, "When will they be ready?" to, "How can I stay faithful to my own path today?" That is how you stay free. Not disconnected. Free. Free enough to love without control. Free enough to hope without suspension. Free enough to trust without obsession. Free enough to move forward without believing that movement destroys what is meant. A real soul contract does not require you to freeze. It requires you to become. And sometimes becoming means letting the other person have their own wilderness, their own silence, their own confrontation, their own emotional winter, their own lessons that you cannot understand, manage, or accelerate. Maybe they need to lose something to realize what they value. Maybe they need to sit with a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels empty in the places your presence once touched. Maybe they need to experience what happens when they choose comfort over truth. Maybe they need to face a pattern that existed long before you. Maybe they need to learn that avoidance does not protect them from pain. It only delays intimacy and deepens loneliness. Maybe they need to become tired of their own running. Not because you convinced them, because life did. And while that happens, you have your own life to live, your own wounds to tend, your own purpose to follow, your own nervous system to soothe, your own joy to reclaim, your own standards to embody. This is where the right union begins to feel less like a single event and more like a convergence. Two souls moving separately, being shaped separately, learning separately, shedding separately, until the timing is no longer forced, until the meeting is no longer one person pulling the other, until the union is not carried by fantasy, until both people have enough truth in them to recognize what is standing in front of them. That is why the right union may take longer. It is not only about attraction, it is about convergence. And convergence cannot be rushed. If two people are meant to meet at a certain point, one cannot drag the other there and still call it aligned. The one who arrives early may need to keep walking their own path. Not backwards, not in circles, forward, trusting that if the other soul is meant to meet them, they will be moved by their own awakening, their own choices, their own lessons, their own readiness. That trust is difficult because it requires releasing control. You may think, but what if they never get there? Then the path will reveal that too. Not as punishment, as truth. Because the right union must be able to meet you. If someone never becomes positioned, never becomes willing, never becomes emotionally available, never becomes capable of truth, then the soul contract may have used them as a mirror, not the final union. That possibility can hurt, but it can also protect you from worshiping potential forever. The right union is not just the person you feel the deepest pull toward. It is the person whose soul and human self can align with yours in lived reality. Not perfectly, but sincerely. A person can be part of your awakening without being part of your final union. A person can be a catalyst without being a lifelong companion. A person can be a mirror without being the one who walks beside your destiny. This is why positioning matters. It reveals who can meet the contract and who only awakened it. That is a subtle but powerful distinction. Some people awaken the longing for sacred union. The right person can embody it. Some people reveal the wound. The right person can meet the healing. Some people show you what you crave. The right person can build what your soul is actually here to experience. And sometimes you do not know the difference immediately. That is why time matters. Time reveals positioning. It reveals whether someone's feelings become actions. It reveals whether their fear becomes courage. It reveals whether their longing becomes responsibility. It reveals whether their silence becomes truth. It reveals whether your hope was attached to potential or aligned with reality. A person who is positioned for union will not only feel. They will move differently. They will become more honest, more accountable, more capable of repair, more willing to face discomfort, more consistent in their presence. Not instantly, not perfectly, but visibly. Growth leaves evidence. Readiness leaves evidence. Positioning leaves evidence. You will not have to live only on signs, dreams, and energetic sensations. There will be something in the human world too. A conversation, a changed pattern, a willingness to listen, a clearer intention, a respect for your boundaries, a steadiness that did not exist before. That is why your soul contract asks you to observe. Not obsess. Observe. There is a calm difference. Obsession says, what does every little thing mean? Observation says, what pattern is being shown over time? Obsession builds stories from fragments. Observation lets reality speak. Obsession is hungry. Observation is grounded. If the right union is being positioned, reality will eventually begin to show it. Not through one random sign alone. Through alignment. Through movement. Through both souls becoming capable of meeting. Until then, you do not need to force a conclusion. You do not need to declare, it is definitely them, from the wound. You also do not need to deny what you feel just to feel safe. You can hold the possibility lightly. Open hand. Open heart. Open eyes. That is the balance. I feel something, but I will not abandon reality. I honor the bond, but I will not force the outcome. I trust alignment, but I will keep living my life. I am open to union, but I am not available for one-sided waiting. This is emotional maturity, and it may be exactly what your soul contract was guiding you toward. A love that can be held without control. A connection that can be honored without obsession. A future that can be trusted without self-suspension. Because the right union does not need you to stop living for it to find you. It may actually need you to live fully, so it can meet the real you. Not the waiting version. Not the anxious version. Not the version who spends all their energy reading signs. The real you. Alive. Grounded. Purposeful. Soft. Clear. Whole. A person who has a life the union can enter, not a void the union must fill. That is what both souls are being prepared for. A union that does not become rescue. A union that does not become escape. A union that does not become a place where old wounds reenact themselves with spiritual language. A union where two people can look at each other and say, even quietly, I have met myself enough to meet you differently. That is beautiful. And rare. It takes positioning. Maybe you are being positioned through healing. Maybe they are being positioned through loss. Maybe you are learning openness. Maybe they are learning vulnerability. Maybe you are learning boundaries. Maybe they are learning accountability. Maybe you are learning not to chase. Maybe they are learning not to disappear. Maybe both souls are being stripped of pride, fear, fantasy, and old emotional agreements. You may not see all of it. You may not get updates. You may not know what the other person is facing behind closed doors. But you can know this. If the right union is real, it will not require one soul to do all the becoming. The contract will move both. Life will press on both. Truth will find both. The mirror will work on both. And if only one person responds to that work, then the relationship may not become the union you imagined. That is painful, but it is also clarity. Because your destiny is not to carry a connection alone. Your destiny is not to become the healer, translator, rescuer, an emotional bridge for someone who refuses to cross. Your destiny is not to keep proving love to a person who is not positioned to receive it. The right union is mutual, not always equal in every moment. Human relationships have seasons, but mutual in willingness, mutual in respect, mutual in growth, mutual in the desire to meet truth, mutual in the decision not to let fear lead everything. That is what your soul has been waiting for. Not someone perfect, someone willing to become, willing to see themselves, willing to repair, willing to choose love in the human world, not only feel it in the hidden places. And you must be willing too. Willing to stop accepting less. Willing to stop turning potential into proof. Willing to stop calling your self-abandonment patience. Willing to stop making someone else's unreadiness your identity. Willing to remain open without remaining stuck. That is your positioning. A soft openness with a strong center. A heart that can love without collapsing. A soul that can trust without clinging. A body that can recognize peace without mistrusting it. A life that can receive union without being consumed by it. And as this positioning deepens, you may notice something shifting in how you pray. You no longer pray, "Please let it be them," with the same desperation. You pray, "Let whoever is aligned be made ready." You no longer pray, "Bring them back at any cost." You pray, "Bring only what can meet me in truth." You no longer pray, "Make them choose me." You pray, "Help me choose what honors my soul." You no longer pray from panic. You pray from alignment. And that prayer has a different energy. It does not beg. It allows. It does not force. It trusts. It does not deny your desire. It purifies it. It says, "I want union, but I want the right union. I want love, but I want love that can hold truth. I want connection, but I do not want to lose myself again." That is a sacred prayer. A mature prayer. A prayer that creates space for what is truly aligned to enter and what is not aligned to fall away. And sometimes, yes, falling away hurts. Even when you know better. Even when you understand the lesson. Even when your spirit says, "This was not the one." The heart still grieves. It remembers the eyes. The almost. The warmth. The possibility. The version of them that could have met you if they had been ready. Let yourself grieve that. Do not shame the grief. But do not make grief a reason to stand still forever. Grief can be honored while you keep walking. Love can be remembered while you keep living. A soul contract can be trusted without turning your life into a waiting room. This is the balance the waiting season teaches. And yes, the waiting can feel unbearable. Especially when every past ending starts to look like proof that love will never stay. You may think, maybe no one will ever be positioned for me. Maybe I am always the lesson, never the destination. Maybe I am meant to awaken people, but never be chosen by them. That fear is real. Many chosen ones carry it quietly. They become the person others grow from. The person others remember. The person who teaches people what love could feel like. Only to watch them give that growth to someone else. That can ache in a place words barely reach. But do not turn past patterns into prophecy. Just because some people could not meet you does not mean no one can. Just because some connections were mirrors does not mean the right union is not possible. Just because you were the lesson before does not mean you will never be the home. The soul contract was not preparing you only to be a catalyst for others. It was preparing you to recognize the union that can meet you as deeply as you meet it. But for that union to arrive, both souls must be positioned. So let the ones who are not ready reveal themselves. Let the ones who cannot stay move out of the way. Let the ones who only awaken your wound complete their lesson. Let the ones who are not aligned with your purpose fall away. Not because they are worthless, because they are not the contract. The right union will not need you to convince it to become right. It will recognize the work. It will feel the depth and choose responsibility. It will meet your openness with presence. It will not make you carry the entire spiritual meaning alone. It will not leave you as the only one praying, healing, waiting, understanding, forgiving, and translating the silence. It will meet you, maybe imperfectly, maybe slowly, but genuinely. And when it does, something in you will know the difference. Not through panic, through peace. Not through obsession, through steadiness. Not through the ache of chasing, through the quiet relief of mutuality. A right union may still stir the soul. It may still bring emotion. It may still be powerful. But it will not require you to disappear in order for it to exist. That is the promise hidden in all this positioning. You are not being delayed to suffer. You are being aligned with a union that can actually hold what your soul came here to experience. A union where both people have been moved by life, shaped by lessons, humbled by truth, and softened enough to meet without repeating the past. And until that union arrives, your task is not to wait in fear. Your task is to keep becoming the person who can receive it, the person who knows their worth, the person who can love without self-abandonment, the person who can hold possibility without losing reality, the person who can let others have their process without making it their prison, the person who understands. If it is the right union, it will not be carried by me alone. That sentence is a relief. If it is the right union, it will not be carried by me alone. You can stop carrying everything now. The hope, the meaning, the silence, the timing, the emotional labor, the imaginary future, the responsibility for someone else's courage. Put some of it down. Let the contract carry what belongs to the contract. Let life move what life must move. Let the other soul face what the other soul must face. And let yourself breathe. Because while both souls are being positioned, the waiting can feel unbearable. Especially when your heart still fears that every ending means love will always leave. That fear is the next wound your soul contract wants to heal. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter. The right union needed both souls to be positioned. The emotional truth is simple. Real union cannot be carried by one person's healing alone. Both souls must become willing, emotionally ready, honest, and capable of meeting the connection in real life. You can do your work. You can heal your patterns. You can stop chasing. You can become ready. But you cannot do another soul's work for them. The right union will not require you to drag someone into readiness. It will meet you through mutual growth, mutual willingness, and mutual truth. Chapter 8. The waiting season was healing your fear that love always leaves. I used to carry this quiet belief that love eventually leaves. Not loudly. Not in a way I would admit to people. I did not walk around saying, I expect everyone to abandon me. I just lived like it. I waited for the shift. The colder message. The delayed reply. The change in tone. The moment their eyes stopped softening when they looked at me. The subtle distance that arrived before any goodbye was spoken. And maybe you know that feeling. Someone could be kind to you, and instead of simply receiving it, part of you would begin scanning. Looking for the catch. Looking for the hidden ending. Looking for the moment where the warmth would turn into uncertainty. At first, everything might feel beautiful. They reach for your hand. They remember a detail you shared. They send a message in the morning. They look at you like they are not in a hurry to leave. And for a moment, your body softens. You think, maybe this is safe. Then almost immediately, another part of you whispers. But for how long? Pause there. That whisper is not random. It comes from somewhere. It comes from every time love changed without warning. Every time someone felt close and then became unreachable. Every time you had to guess what went wrong. Every time affection felt temporary. Every time you opened your heart and later wished you had protected it better. So when nothing worked out before, it did not just break your heart. It trained your nervous system. It taught your body to expect endings. It taught your mind to prepare for disappointment before it even arrived. It taught your heart to love with one hand open and the other hand already bracing for loss. And that is exhausting. To want love deeply, but fear it at the same time. To crave closeness, but feel unsafe when closeness finally comes. To pray for the right union, but silently expect that even the right person will eventually leave. That is the emotional contradiction many chosen ones carry. They want to be held, but when someone gets close, the body starts preparing for impact. They want consistency, but when consistency appears, they question whether it is real. They want love that stays, but somewhere inside, they have built an entire survival system around the belief that love does not stay. This is why the waiting season can feel so painful. It does not only delay love, it brings your fear of losing love to the surface. The silence becomes a mirror. The waiting becomes a room where all your old abandonment wounds begin speaking at once. See, you are alone again. See, love always gets close and disappears. See, you should not have trusted it. See, you are the one people remember but never choose. Those thoughts can feel convincing when the room is quiet, especially at night, when your phone is beside you, when no message comes, when your body is tired, but your mind keeps replaying every connection that almost worked. When you wonder why everyone else seems to be chosen more easily. That is when the fear gets loud. Not dramatic loud. Inner loud. The kind that makes your chest feel heavy and your throat feel tight. The kind that makes you question whether maybe you were made to awaken people, not be loved by them. That thought hurts, because maybe you have been the person who helped others grow. You loved them deeply. You saw their pain. You understood their silence. You gave them patience they had not earned. You gave them tenderness when they were still learning how to be honest. And later they moved on, or disappeared, or became better for someone else. And you were left wondering, why did I have to be the lesson? That can create a deep fear. A fear that love uses you for transformation, then leaves you behind. A fear that people meet your soul, but cannot stay with your humanity. A fear that you are always the bridge, never the home. But chosen one, listen carefully. The waiting season was not confirming that fear. It was healing it. Not in a way that always felt gentle, but in a way that slowly returned your power. Because if love keeps leaving in your outer life, eventually the deeper wound rises. Will I leave myself too? That is the question the waiting season asks. When no one is choosing you clearly, can you choose yourself? When no one is reassuring you, can you soothe your own nervous system? When a door closes, can you resist turning that ending into proof that you are unlovable? When silence stretches, can you stay with your own heart instead of abandoning it in shame? This is where the real healing begins. Not when someone finally stays, but when you stop leaving yourself every time someone does not. Raw honesty? For a long time, I thought I needed someone else to stay so I could finally feel safe. I thought the right person would come and undo the belief that love leaves. They would be consistent enough, patient enough, present enough. They would love me so clearly that the fear would disappear. But that is not always how healing works. Sometimes life does not bring the person immediately. Sometimes life brings the fear to the surface first. Again and again. Not to punish you, to help you finally meet it. Because if the right union arrived while the fear still controlled your body, you might not trust it. You might test it. You might doubt it. You might overthink every pause. You might turn every ordinary moment of distance into a sign of abandonment. You might push them away before they could leave, or cling so tightly that love could not breathe. So the waiting season becomes a training ground, a painful one, but sacred. It teaches your nervous system that silence is uncomfortable, but not fatal. It teaches your heart that absence does not automatically mean you are worthless. It teaches your body that longing can rise without becoming a command. It teaches your spirit that you can be alone without being abandoned by yourself. That last part matters. Being alone and being abandoned are not the same thing. But if you have an abandonment wound, they can feel identical. A quiet night can feel like rejection. A delayed message can feel like danger. A person needing space can feel like the beginning of the end. A temporary distance can awaken permanent fear. Your body does not say, "This is a normal pause." It says, "Prepare to lose them." And suddenly, you are not in the present anymore. You are in every old ending at once. The person in front of you becomes mixed with every person who left before. Their silence becomes your childhood. Their distance becomes your old heartbreak. Their hesitation becomes every time you felt replaceable. Their unclear energy becomes the proof your wound was waiting for. That is why the right union needed you to heal this fear. Not remove it completely. Healing does not mean you never feel afraid again. It means fear no longer gets to drive the whole connection. It means you can pause before reacting. It means you can say, "This feeling is old." It means you can breathe instead of immediately chasing. It means you can ask for reassurance without turning your fear into accusation. It means you can let someone have a human moment without making it a prophecy of abandonment. This is emotional readiness. And the waiting season was building it in you. You may not have recognized it. It may have looked like loneliness. It may have looked like nothing happening. It may have looked like another long stretch where love felt far away. But underneath, your body was being invited to learn a new truth. Love leaving before was painful, but it did not destroy me. I have survived endings. I have survived silence. I have survived people who could not choose me. I am still here. And I can stay with myself now. That is not a small realization. That is a foundation. Because the fear that love always leaves often makes you do things that do not actually create safety. You may overgive. You may try to become perfect. You may avoid speaking your needs. You may tolerate inconsistency. You may accept less than you deserve because some part of you thinks, at least they are still here. You may become overly understanding of behavior that hurts you, because you are afraid that if you ask for more, they will walk away. So you shrink. Quietly. You become low maintenance. You become easy. You become the person who does not need too much, ask too much, feel too much, say too much. But that is not safety. That is survival. And the right union cannot meet you fully if you are hiding half of yourself to prevent abandonment. Let that sit for a moment. If you have to become smaller to keep someone, then what they are keeping is not the real you. The waiting season was healing the part of you that thought you had to earn staying. It was teaching you that the right union will not require you to perform emotional perfection. It was teaching you that your needs are not threats. Your feelings are not burdens. Your desire for clarity is not too much. Your sensitivity is not a flaw that must be managed so people do not leave. The right union may still require communication, patience, repair, growth, but it will not make you feel like being yourself is the thing that puts love at risk. That is the difference. With the wrong connections, you may have felt like every honest need could become a goodbye. With the right union, honesty may feel vulnerable, but it will not be punished with disappearance. And before you can trust that, your body has to unlearn the expectation of loss. That unlearning happens slowly. In small moments, you feel the old panic rise, and instead of obeying it, you breathe. You notice the urge to check, and you wait. You feel loneliness at night, and instead of turning it into proof that no one will ever stay, you place a hand on your chest and say, "I am here." You remember someone who left, and instead of asking, "Why was I not enough?" you ask, "What did this show me about what I need now?" These small shifts matter. They are the moments where the abandonment wound loses authority. Not all at once. Piece by piece. You stop interpreting every ending as a sentence about your worth. You stop believing that being left means you were not lovable. You stop using someone else's inability to stay as evidence against your own heart. You begin to understand that people leave for many reasons. Their fear, their wounds, their limitations, their timing, their lack of capacity, their inability to meet what the connection required. Their leaving does not always mean you were lacking. Sometimes it means they were not positioned. Sometimes it means the union was not aligned. Sometimes it means the connection completed its purpose. Sometimes it means your soul contract was protecting you from a life where love would have felt like constant self-erasure. This does not erase the pain, but it removes the shame. And shame is often what makes abandonment wounds so heavy. The ending hurts. Then shame says, "It happened because of you." The silence hurts. Then shame says, "You must not matter." The rejection hurts. Then shame says, "You are too much." The failed relationship hurts. Then shame says, "This will always happen." Healing begins when you stop letting shame narrate your love story. What if nothing worked out before? Not because you were unlovable, but because your soul contract refused to let you attach permanently to people who would keep proving you're wound right. Think about that. If you fear love always leaves, and you keep choosing unavailable people, every ending reinforces the fear. The soul contract begins interrupting that pattern. It closes doors. It creates distance. It allows the waiting. It brings you into solitude, not to confirm that you are alone forever, to help you stop choosing what feels like the old abandonment wound. It wants you to stop mistaking familiar fear for love. It wants you to learn what your body feels like when it is not constantly bracing. It wants you to recognize the difference between the person who activates abandonment and the person who helps you practice trust. The right union will not magically erase every fear, but it will not constantly feed the fear either. That matters. Some connections feed the abandonment wound. They make it bigger. They keep you guessing. They give inconsistent affection. They make you feel replaceable. They leave emotional gaps and expect your intuition to fill them. Other connections help the wound heal. Not by being perfect, but by being present enough, honest enough, consistent enough, and emotionally responsible enough for your body to learn, slowly. This is different. The waiting season was preparing you to recognize that difference. Because before, you may have confused the wound being triggered with love being activated. You may have felt the panic and called it chemistry. You may have felt the chase and called it passion. You may have felt the fear of losing someone and called it depth. But now, after everything, you are becoming more sensitive to peace. You are starting to notice when your body feels calm around someone. You are starting to value clear communication. You are starting to appreciate consistency that once might have felt boring. You are starting to understand that a steady presence can be more sacred than an intense absence. That is growth. It may feel quiet, but it is powerful. A nervous system learning not to expect abandonment is doing sacred work. It is learning to stop preparing for love to leave before love has even had a chance to stay. And yes, this can feel vulnerable. If you stop bracing, you feel exposed. If you stop expecting loss, you risk being disappointed. If you let yourself receive love, you risk feeling the full pain if it does not work. So sometimes, the fear of abandonment convinces you that staying guarded is wisdom. It says, do not trust too quickly. Do not need anyone. Do not let them matter. Do not get too happy. Do not relax. But that is not wisdom. That is protection that has outlived its purpose. Wisdom is not closing your heart before anyone gets close. Wisdom is learning how to stay open while staying connected to yourself. Wisdom says, I can risk connection without abandoning myself. Wisdom says, I can let someone in slowly. Wisdom says, I can watch consistency over time. Wisdom says, even if someone leaves, I will not leave myself again. That is the healing. Not guaranteeing that nobody will ever leave. No human can promise that life will never change. People have choices. Timelines shift. Relationships reveal truths. But the deeper safety is knowing that another person's leaving will not make you lose your entire self. You may grieve. You may ache. You may need time. But you will not turn it into proof that you are impossible to love. You will not chase what is not choosing you. You will not shrink into someone they might stay for. You will not abandon your truth to keep someone close. That is the kind of inner safety the right union needs. Because when you know you can stay with yourself, you stop trying to control whether someone else stays. You become less anxious, less reactive, less likely to mistake distance for danger, less likely to cling, less likely to push away. Love has more room. It can breathe. And the right union needs room to breathe. Not constant testing. Not constant fear. Not constant scanning. A relationship cannot become a safe home if one person is always searching the walls for cracks. The waiting season teaches you to stop expecting collapse. It teaches you to observe reality without projecting every old ending onto it. It teaches you that sometimes a quiet moment is just a quiet moment, not a goodbye. Sometimes a delayed reply is just life happening, not abandonment. Sometimes someone needing space is not rejection. Sometimes peace feels unfamiliar because your body is used to alarm. And sometimes love can stay longer than your fear believes it can. Let that possibility enter. Love can stay. Not every connection. Not every person. Not every almost. But the right union can stay in a way your past could not. Not because it never has challenges, but because it has the willingness to repair. And repair is what teaches the abandonment wound something new. When conflict happens and the person does not disappear. When you express hurt and they do not shame you. When there is distance but also communication. When a misunderstanding happens and both people come back to the conversation. When love does not break just because something uncomfortable has been named. That is what the right union can offer. A new experience. A corrective experience. A place where the nervous system slowly learns. Conflict does not always mean ending. Space does not always mean rejection. Honesty does not always make people leave. Love can be repaired. Love can stay. But if your body still expects every discomfort to become abandonment, you may struggle to receive that. So the waiting season begins healing the expectation before the union arrives. It asks you to practice staying. With yourself. With your feelings. With silence. With uncertainty. With your own life. Can you stay present when the old fear says run? Can you stay kind to yourself when someone else is unclear? Can you stay grounded when a memory rises? Can you stay connected to your worth when a door closes? Can you stay open to love without handing your future to fear? This is the work. Quiet work. Invisible work. The kind nobody applauds. But it changes everything. Maybe you noticed it in small ways. You no longer spiral as long when someone takes time to respond. You no longer blame yourself immediately when someone pulls away. You no longer chase every person who becomes distant. You no longer interpret every ending as proof that you are defective. You recover faster. You return to yourself sooner. You can say, "This hurts," without saying, "This defines me." That is healing. That is your soul contract preparing you for love that does not have to fight through the entire weight of your past before it can meet you. And if you still have fear, be gentle. Of course you do. The fear that love always leaves is not healed by one affirmation. It is healed through repeated experiences of staying with yourself. Repeated experiences of choosing peace. Repeated experiences of not turning every silence into abandonment. Repeated experiences of letting aligned people show consistency over time. Repeated experiences of believing your needs can be spoken without shame. Healing happens through repetition. The wound learned through repetition too. Repeated inconsistency. Repeated loss. Repeated emotional absence. Repeated disappointment. So now, love and self-trust must be learned through new repetition. Small, steady, embodied repetition. This is why the waiting season can feel long. It is not just waiting for a person. It is rewiring expectation. It is teaching your heart a new emotional language. The old language said, "Love leaves. Prepare. Do not relax. Do not need. Chase before they disappear. Shrink before they reject you." The new language says, "I can be loved without performing. I can ask for clarity. I can let someone show me who they are. I can trust consistency when it is real. I can survive endings without turning them into identity. I can stay with myself." This language takes time. But once you begin speaking it, even quietly, your entire relationship with love changes. You stop being drawn only to people who confirm the old fear. You stop mistaking unavailable energy for chemistry. You stop feeling responsible for making someone stay. You stop chasing love that keeps you bracing. You begin to choose from a different place. Not fear. Not hunger. Not the need to prove the past wrong. A steadier place. A place that says, "I want love that feels like truth in my body." Not just excitement. Truth. Not just longing. Safety. Not just intensity. Presence. And this is exactly what prepares you for the right union. Because the right union will ask you to receive, to let yourself be seen, to let someone care, to believe that you do not have to earn every moment of affection, to stop turning the present person into the past people, to allow love to be new. That can be scary. Sometimes new love feels more frightening than old pain. Old pain is familiar. New love asks you to trust what you have not known before. A consistent person may feel like unfamiliar territory. A calm connection may feel strange. A person who does not make you chase may feel almost too simple. But perhaps simplicity is not absence of depth. Perhaps simplicity is the absence of fear. Perhaps the right union will not feel like your old survival patterns. Perhaps it will feel like your body learning to exhale. And that is why nothing worked out before. The past was not only clearing wrong people. It was healing the expectation that love must leave. It was showing you the pattern, the bracing, the hypervigilance, the fear that if someone gets too close, loss is only a matter of time. It was asking you to stop living from the ending before the beginning has even had a chance. Because the right union cannot be received fully by a heart that is already preparing for goodbye. It can be patient with that heart. It can comfort that heart. It can help that heart learn. But you still have to participate in the healing. You have to notice when fear is speaking. You have to name it gently. You have to say, this is the old story. You have to breathe. You have to let love show itself over time. You have to stop accusing the present of crimes committed by the past. That is not easy. But it is possible. And maybe you're already doing it. Maybe you have already begun. Maybe you are not as quick to chase. Maybe you do not collapse the same way when someone is unclear. Maybe you can feel fear rise and still choose not to make decisions from it. Maybe you can admit, I am scared, without making your fear the ruler. Maybe you are starting to believe that love leaving before does not mean love will always leave. That belief may be small. Protect it. It is a seed. A new contract forming in the body. A new possibility. A new relationship with love. One where you do not have to become hypervigilant to stay safe. One where you do not have to earn presence. One where you do not have to be abandoned by yourself just because someone else did not know how to stay. Chosen one, the waiting season was healing your fear that love always leaves. It was not confirming your abandonment. It was teaching you how to stop abandoning yourself. It was showing you that your worth does not rise and fall with someone's ability to stay. It was helping your body learn that silence, distance, and uncertainty do not have to become self-rejection. It was preparing you to receive a union where love can be present without you waiting for it to disappear. And when that right union comes closer, it may feel different. Not because there is no emotion. There will be emotion. Not because there is no depth. There will be depth. Not because there are no mirrors. There may still be mirrors. But underneath it all, your body may feel something unfamiliar. A steadiness. A softness. A quiet sense of being met without having to chase. A feeling that you can breathe. A feeling that your truth has room. A feeling that love is not standing at the door with one foot already outside. And that may be when you realize the right union feels different. Because you are different. Your fear is not leading the same way. Your body is not bracing the same way. Your heart is no longer choosing from the same wound. And that is where the next chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter. The waiting season was healing your fear that love always leaves. The emotional truth is simple. Repeated endings can train your nervous system to expect abandonment, even when love is present. The waiting season was not confirming that you are meant to be left. It was teaching you how to stop leaving yourself. You were learning to soothe fear, stop chasing distance, stop turning silence into self-rejection, and trust that love can feel steady without being shallow. The right union can only be received fully when your heart is no longer already preparing for goodbye. Chapter 9. The right union will feel different because you will be different. I used to think the right person would simply arrive and make everything feel easy. Like their presence would erase the past. Like one look from them would calm every fear. Like one steady love would undo every almost love. Like the right union would come in so clearly, so dramatically, so unmistakably, that I would never question anything again. I imagined it as a kind of rescue. Not in a weak way. More like a final exhale. After all the waiting. After all the wrong people. After all the connections that started with promise and ended with confusion. I thought the right union would feel like proof. Proof that I was not too much. Proof that the heartbreak had purpose. Proof that the silence was not wasted. Proof that all the doors that closed were leading somewhere. And maybe it will feel like that in some ways. Maybe the right union will bring a peace your body has been craving for years. Maybe it will feel like a warm hand on a place inside you that has been cold for a very long time. Maybe it will make certain past losses finally make sense. But there is something quieter I had to learn. The right union feels different not only because they are different. It feels different because you are. Pause there. Because this is where everything changes. For so long, you may have been focused on finding the right person. The one who stays. The one who understands. The one who does not make you beg for emotional safety. The one who sees your depth and does not run from it. The one who can meet your soul without disappearing into fear. And yes, the right person matters. Capacity matters. Character matters. Emotional availability matters. But your ability to recognize that person depends on who you have become. Before, you may have chosen from the wound. Not consciously. Not intentionally. But quietly. You chose the person who felt familiar to your nervous system. You chose the person who triggered your need to prove yourself. You chose the person whose distance made you feel like you had to become more lovable. You chose the person whose inconsistency felt magnetic because some part of you was still trying to repair an old abandonment. And because you chose from the wound, love felt like pursuit. It felt like urgency. It felt like trying to be enough for someone who was always one step emotionally unavailable. It felt like your body constantly asking, "Are we safe yet?" Then after everything you went through, something began to shift. Not all at once. Slowly. Painfully. Through endings you did not want. Through mirrors that exposed you. Through almost love that exhausted you. Through closed doors that made you feel rejected before you realized they had protected you. Through waiting seasons that forced you to meet your own fear of abandonment. You changed. You became less available to confusion. Less impressed by emotional intensity without emotional responsibility. Less willing to translate silence into love. Less willing to treat anxiety like a spiritual sign. Less willing to make a home inside potential. That shift is sacred. And when the right union comes closer, you will not meet it as the person who once begged almost love to become whole. You will meet it as someone who has learned the cost of abandoning themselves. That changes the way love feels. The right union may not feel like the old chaos. And at first, that may confuse you. Because if you have been conditioned by painful love, safe love can feel unfamiliar. It may not create the same stomach drop. It may not make you obsess. It may not make you check your phone every 5 minutes. It may not make your nervous system swing between hope and panic. It may not make you feel like you are starving, then fed, then starving again. And because it does not activate the old cycle, a part of you might ask, is this deep enough? Is this passionate enough? Why am I not spiraling? Why does this feel calmer? Why does my body feel quiet instead of desperate? That is where you have to listen carefully. Sometimes peace feels strange because chaos trained you to expect love as intensity. Sometimes consistency feels unfamiliar because inconsistency trained you to crave relief. Sometimes being chosen clearly feels almost uncomfortable because you are used to earning affection from people who were not fully available. Sometimes the right union does not feel like fireworks in the nervous system. Sometimes it feels like your body finally stops bracing. And that can be just as powerful. Maybe even more. Because when your body stops bracing, you begin to feel what love is like without survival running the room. You can hear their words without analyzing every hidden meaning. You can receive a message without needing to decode tone. You can sit in silence without immediately thinking something is wrong. You can express a need without preparing for abandonment. You can be seen without performing strength. You can be soft without feeling unsafe. That is different. Deeply different. And maybe that is the kind of different your soul contract has been preparing you for all along. Raw honesty? You may not trust it at first. After so many endings, safe love may feel suspicious. A person who communicates clearly might make you wonder, what are they hiding? A person who follows through might feel too simple. A person who does not make you chase might not create the same high. A person who gives consistency might bring up fear, not because they are unsafe, but because your body is waiting for the pattern to change. You may find yourself looking for the familiar warning signs. A cold shift, a hidden distance, a subtle withdrawal, a reason to protect yourself before they can hurt you. And when you do not find one immediately, the mind may invent one. Maybe they are too good to be true. Maybe they will leave later. Maybe I am not attracted enough. Maybe I am used to something more intense. Maybe I should feel more anxious if it is real. But love does not need to make you anxious to be real. Let that land. Love does not need to make you anxious to be real. A calm nervous system is not proof that love is shallow. It may be proof that love is safe. The right union may still stir emotion. It may still awaken tenderness. It may still bring deep conversations. It may still make you feel seen in ways that surprise you. But underneath the emotion, there may be steadiness. A feeling that you do not have to chase. A feeling that you can tell the truth. A feeling that your needs will not immediately become a burden. A feeling that your body has room to breathe. And if you are not used to that, it may take time to receive it. You may need to practice not running from peace. You may need to practice not confusing calm with lack. You may need to practice letting someone be consistent without testing whether they will eventually fail. You may need to practice believing that love can be present without being dramatic. This is part of becoming different. Not just attracting different. Becoming different. Because the right union will ask you to respond from your healed self more often than your wounded self. It will not mean the wounded self never appears. It will. A slow reply may still awaken something. A quiet mood may still trigger a memory. A disagreement may still make your chest tighten. An honest conversation may still bring fear to the surface. But now you can pause. You can breathe. You can say, this feeling is old. You can ask instead of assume. You can express instead of chase. You can receive reassurance without feeling ashamed for needing it. You can let the present person be the present person, not a stand-in for everyone who left before. That is healing in relationship. Not perfection. Presence. And the right union will have space for that kind of presence. It will not punish you for having history. It will not require you to be untouched by the past. It will not demand that you arrive fully healed with no tenderness, no fear, no scars. But it will invite you to handle your wounds differently. Not by hiding them. Not by handing them over completely. By bringing them into the light with responsibility. There is a huge difference between saying, my fear is here, so you must fix it, and saying, my fear is here, and I want to communicate with you instead of letting it control me. That difference is emotional maturity. The right union can work with maturity. It cannot thrive under projection, panic, constant testing, or silent punishment. And you are becoming someone who knows that. Before, you may have reacted quickly. A trigger appeared, and the story began. They are leaving. They do not care. I am too much. I need to pull away first. I need to chase before it is too late. Now there is more space. A sacred space. Between feeling and reaction. Between fear and story. Between memory and choice. In that space, the whole future can change. You can choose a new response. You can say, I noticed I got quiet because I felt scared. You can say, can we talk about this? You can say, I need a little reassurance. You can say, I am learning not to assume the worst. You can say, this matters to me. And if the union is right, those honest moments will not always be easy, but they will have somewhere to land. They will not be met with contempt. They will not be met with disappearance. They will not be used against you. They will be part of building trust. That is one reason the right union feels different. You do not have to hide the human parts of yourself to keep the connection. You do not have to become endlessly low maintenance. You do not have to pretend you never feel insecure. You do not have to swallow every need so love remains comfortable for the other person. You can be real. And they can be real too. That is union. Not two perfect people. Two honest people. Two people who can look at what comes up and not immediately run to old patterns. Two people willing to repair. Two people willing to listen. Two people willing to grow without making growth a punishment. This is very different from the relationships that failed before. Before, maybe your honesty created distance. Now, honesty creates clarity. Before, your needs felt like they might end everything. Now, your needs become part of understanding each other. Before, silence felt like abandonment. Now, silence can be communicated as space, not used as a weapon. Before, conflict meant fear. Now, conflict can become repair. Before, you had to guess. Now you can ask. That difference may feel almost unbelievable at first. You may have moments where you think, is it really allowed to be this clear? Can love really feel this steady? Can someone really hear me without making me regret speaking? Can I really stop performing and still be chosen? Yes. With the right union, yes. Not perfectly every second. But yes, in the deeper pattern. And patterns matter. You are no longer choosing from one moment of intensity. You are looking at the pattern. Does this person return to truth after discomfort? Do they communicate when they need space? Do they take responsibility when they hurt you? Do they respect your boundaries without acting punished? Do they make room for your growth? Do they bring steadiness to your life, not just excitement to your nervous system? Do you like who you become around them? That last question is important. Do you like who you become around them? With the wrong people, you may have become anxious, careful, overgiving, obsessive, quiet about your needs, addicted to signs, hungry for crumbs, afraid to be fully yourself. With the right union, you may become softer, more honest, more grounded, more creative, more present in your body, more connected to your purpose, more able to rest, more willing to open without losing yourself. That is how you recognize alignment, not only by how much you feel for them, but by who you become in the field of the connection. A right union should not shrink your life. It should expand it. It should not make your purpose feel secondary to emotional survival. It should not make you abandon friendships, routines, creativity, or self-respect. It should not make you live inside waiting. It should support the version of you your soul contract has been building. The version that took so much to become. The version who learned that almost is not enough. The version who stopped confusing pain with depth. The version who saw closed doors as protection. The version who became emotionally ready to receive without collapsing. The version who understands that both souls must be positioned. The version who is healing the fear that love always leaves. The right union will meet that version. Not just the wounded version. Not just the giving version. Not just the understanding version. The whole you. And it will feel different because you no longer need the same things from love. Before, you may have needed love to prove your worth. Now, you want love that honors the worth you are already learning to know. Before, you may have needed love to rescue you from loneliness. Now, you want love that joins a life you are already returning to. Before, you may have needed love to be intense so it felt meaningful. Now, you want love to be honest so it can become safe. Before, you may have wanted someone to choose you so the past would stop hurting. Now, you want someone who chooses you because the present is aligned. That shift is everything. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what attracts you. It changes what you notice. It changes what you call chemistry. It changes what you call home. Home no longer feels like someone who activates every wound and then occasionally soothes it. Home begins to feel like someone whose presence lets you remain connected to yourself. Home is not a person you disappear into. Home is a union where both people can stand fully, side by side. That is different. And maybe the right union will not come with the same kind of chaos you once associated with love. Maybe it will come quietly. A conversation that feels easy. A presence that feels steady. Eye contact that does not make you feel consumed, but recognized. A consistency that slowly teaches your body to trust. A person who does not rush your walls down, but meets you with patience. Someone who asks questions and actually listens. Someone whose actions do not require constant explanation. Someone who makes you feel seen without making you feel exposed in an unsafe way. And perhaps at first, a part of you will miss the old intensity. Not because it was better, because it was familiar. You may miss the chase, the emotional high, the drama of waiting, the strange addictive pull of someone who could not fully choose you. You may confuse the absence of that chaos with the absence of passion. But do not rush to judge calm love through the lens of a dysregulated past. Give peace time. Let it reveal its own depth. Some fires burn fast and leave smoke. Other fires keep a home warm. You are learning to recognize the difference. The right union may be warm in that second way. Not less passionate. More sustainable. Not less spiritual. More embodied. Not less meaningful. More livable. Because what good is a soul connection if your human self is constantly suffering inside it? What good is intensity if it leaves you unable to eat, sleep, focus, or trust yourself? What good is longing if it keeps you choosing people who cannot meet you in real life? The right union does not only touch your soul. It cares for your humanity, your tired days, your tender places, your need for clarity, your nervous system, your dreams, your purpose, your desire to love deeply without being punished for it. And you will be able to receive that care differently now. Before, you may have been suspicious of kindness. Now you can let it in slowly. Before, you may have felt guilty needing reassurance. Now, you can ask with more tenderness. Before, you may have overgiven to earn staying. Now, you can notice when giving comes from fear. Before, you may have apologized for your sensitivity. Now you understand that your sensitivity needs the right environment, not shame. This is why nothing worked out before. The wrong environments could not hold your sensitivity without making you feel broken. The wrong people could not meet your depth without calling it too much. The wrong connections activated your longing, but did not nourish your peace. The right union will feel different because you are no longer looking only for the person who awakens you. You are looking for the person who can meet you while you are awake. That line matters. You are no longer looking only for the person who awakens you. You are looking for the person who can meet you while you are awake. Many people can awaken you. Pain can awaken you. Mirrors can awaken you. Unavailable people can awaken your wounds. Almost love can awaken your standards. Closed doors can awaken your self-respect. But the right union meets the awakened you. The honest you. The healing you. The you who no longer wants love at the cost of peace. And this version of you may choose differently than the past version would have chosen. You may no longer be drawn to people who make you guess. You may lose interest when someone is inconsistent. You may notice your body pulling back from dynamics you used to chase. You may find yourself valuing emotional maturity more than mysterious chemistry. You may feel more attracted to clarity than to confusion. This does not mean you have become boring. It means your soul is tired of surviving what it came here to heal. That is growth. Let yourself grow. Do not apologize for no longer wanting what once consumed you. Do not feel guilty for outgrowing the kind of love that required you to ache. Do not mistake your new standards for coldness. Your standards are not walls. They are the shape of the union your soul contract has been preparing you to receive. They say, I can love deeply, but I will not disappear. I can be patient, but I will not live in confusion. I can feel chemistry, but I still require consistency. I can honor spiritual connection, but I need human care. I can be open, but I will not choose from the wound again. That is the voice of someone ready for a different kind of love. And when the right union comes, it may recognize that voice. It may not be intimidated by your clarity. It may respect it. It may not punish your boundaries. It may appreciate them. It may not ask you to become less sensitive. It may learn how to love you with tenderness. It may not make your depth feel like an inconvenience. It may meet it with depth of its own. That is how you know you are moving toward union, not another lesson. A lesson may trigger awareness. A union builds a life around truth. A lesson may expose the wound. A union creates space for healing. A lesson may feel intense. A union feels aligned. A lesson may leave you asking what you did wrong. A union invites you to become more fully yourself. And yes, the right union may still have challenges. Do not confuse aligned love with effortless fantasy. There will be moments of misunderstanding. There will be differences. There will be vulnerability. There will be days where old fears try to rise. There will be conversations that require humility. But the difference is in the willingness. In wrong connections, discomfort becomes distance. In right union, discomfort becomes communication. In wrong connections, pain becomes silence. In right union, pain becomes repair. In wrong connections, one person carries the emotional labor. In right union, both people learn how to carry truth together. That is what your soul contract was waiting for. Not perfection. Willingness. Not a flawless person. A positioned soul. Not a fairy tale with no triggers. A conscious union where triggers do not become the whole story. And perhaps you will know it by the way your body responds after conflict. Not during the first beautiful moment. After discomfort. Do they return to the conversation? Do they care about your experience? Do they allow repair? Do they stay emotionally present, even imperfectly? Do you feel like you can be honest without being punished for it? Do you feel your dignity intact? Those are signs of a different kind of love. Not signs in the mystical sense. Signs in the lived sense. The kind that matter. Because the right union is not only proven in dreams, synchronicities, or energetic pulls. It is proven in the daily world. In the way someone treats your heart when things are not easy. In the way they show up after the emotional high passes. In the way they speak when they could avoid. In the way they listen when they could defend. In the way they choose presence when old patterns invite them to run. And you will be different enough to notice. You will not ignore your body. You will not romanticize confusion. You will not call a lack of effort divine timing. You will not accept emotional crumbs as proof of destiny. You will not hand your entire future to potential. You will observe. Softly. Clearly. With an open heart and open eyes. That is the balance your past gave you. It did not make you bitter. It made you discerning. It taught you how to recognize what is not love, what is not union, what is not aligned, what is not safe for your becoming. And because of that, you are more able to recognize what is. The right union may feel like a deep breath after years of holding one. It may feel like being understood without having to perform your pain. It may feel like someone reaching for your hand without making you wonder whether they will disappear tomorrow. It may feel like a conversation where your truth has room. It may feel like eye contact that does not demand you become smaller. It may feel like peace that still has warmth. It may feel like passion that does not come with panic. It may feel like home. Not the old kind of home that was familiar because it resembled your wounds. A new home. One your healed self can actually live inside. And when that happens, you may look back at everything that did not work and finally understand why. Those relationships were not only removing the wrong people. They were shaping the one who would one day recognize the right union. You. The old you might have chased chaos. The new you chooses peace. The old you might have settled for almost. The new you waits for presence. The old you might have confused pain with depth. The new you knows depth can be safe. The old you might have feared love always leaves. The new you is learning that love can stay without requiring self-abandonment. That is transformation. And transformation changes the kind of love you can hold. So if love has not arrived yet, or if you are wondering whether you will know it when it comes, remember this. You are not the same person who chose from the wound. You are not the same person who ignored your body. You are not the same person who believed intensity was enough. You are not the same person who thought being chosen mattered more than being at peace. You are becoming someone who can recognize aligned love, not by how much it makes you ache, but by how deeply it allows you to remain yourself. That is the sign. Can you remain yourself? Can you breathe? Can you speak? Can you grow? Can you rest? Can you love without disappearing? Can you feel deeply without losing your center? Can the union hold both your soul and your humanity? If yes, then maybe you are near something different. Something your past could not give you. Something your soul contract has been preparing you to receive. Not just someone who wants you. Someone who can meet you. And after all the endings, all the almosts, all the silence, all the moments when you wondered why nothing ever worked out, you finally begin to understand. Nothing worked out before because you were not being saved for more of the same. You were being prepared for love that feels different. Because you are different. And once you understand that, the final layer opens. You stop looking at your past as a graveyard of failed love stories. You begin to see it as a path. Every ending, every mirror, every closed door, every waiting season, every ache that taught you to come home to yourself. Not wasted, not meaningless, positioning. And that is where the final chapter begins. Lesson of this chapter: the right union will feel different because you will be different. The emotional truth is simple. Aligned love may not feel like the chaos you once confused with chemistry. It may feel calmer, safer, clearer, more grounded, more honest. Not because it lacks depth, because it does not require survival. You are no longer choosing from the wound, chasing almost love, or calling pain sacred. You are learning to recognize love by peace, presence, consistency, emotional safety, and the freedom to remain yourself. Chapter 10. Nothing worked out before because your soul was saving you for the right union. There comes a moment when you stop looking at your past as a graveyard of failed love stories. You stop seeing only the endings, the unanswered messages, the relationships that almost became something, the people who awakened your heart and then disappeared into silence, the connections that felt meaningful but somehow could not become home. At first, all of it looked like loss. One disappointment after another. One lesson after another. One person after another who came close enough to touch something sacred in you, but not close enough to stay. And if you are honest, maybe there were nights when you wondered if love simply did not know how to find you. You watched other people fall into relationships more easily. You watched people be chosen without having to explain their depth. You watched love seem simple for everyone else while yours kept arriving as a mirror, a lesson, a wound, a waiting season. And somewhere deep inside, you may have whispered, "Why does nothing ever work out for me?" Pause there. Because that question carries years of ache. It carries the person you thought would choose you. The almost love that gave you just enough hope to keep holding on. The connection that made your body feel alive, but never made your nervous system feel safe. The door you kept knocking on even after your soul already knew it was closed. It carries every moment you wondered if you were too much, too deep, too sensitive, too intense, too honest, too hard to love. But chosen one, listen softly. Nothing worked out before because your soul was not trying to punish you. It was trying to save you. Not from love, from the wrong union, from the relationship that would have required you to shrink, from the person who could enjoy your light but avoid your depth, from the connection that awakened your wound but could not hold your healing, from the almost love that would have trained you to accept fragments forever. Your soul contract was not guiding you toward any love. It was guiding you toward the right union. And the right union is not just someone who wants you. Many people can want you. The right union is someone whose soul, character, timing, emotional capacity, and life path can meet yours in truth. Someone who does not only feel your depth in a beautiful moment, but can honor it in real life. Someone who does not only awaken longing, but brings presence. Someone who does not only touch your soul, but respects your nervous system. Someone who does not require you to abandon your peace to prove your devotion. That kind of union is rare. It requires preparation. And sometimes preparation looks like heartbreak. Sometimes preparation looks like losing people you were certain were meant to stay. Sometimes preparation looks like silence after you prayed for clarity. Sometimes preparation looks like being alone long enough to realize how much of yourself you used to abandon just to keep love close. You thought you were being rejected, but you were being refined. You thought you were being delayed, but you were being redirected. You thought love was failing, but love was filtering. Every relationship that ended revealed something. One showed you where you overgave. One showed you where you confused anxiety with chemistry. One showed you that potential is not presence. One showed you that pain is not proof of depth. One showed you that your body knows when love is unsafe, even if your heart still wants the person. None of it was wasted. Not the tears. Not the nights you replayed conversations. Not the moments you blamed yourself. Not the mornings you woke up with a hollow chest and still carried yourself through the day. Not the endings that felt unfair. Not the almosts that made you question your intuition. All of it was shaping discernment. All of it was teaching your heart to recognize what the right union cannot be. It cannot be confusion dressed as mystery. It cannot be inconsistency dressed as fear. It cannot be silence dressed as spiritual timing. It cannot be crumbs dressed as patience. It cannot be pain dressed as destiny. The right union must be able to hold more. More truth. More emotional safety. More mutual growth. More responsibility. More peace. And maybe that is why your soul would not let you settle. Even when you wanted to. Even when you argued with the closed door. Even when you said, "But I love them." Even when you thought, "Maybe if I wait longer, they will become who I need them to be." Your soul knew. It knew the difference between a mirror and a destination. It knew the difference between someone who awakens your wound and someone who can meet your healing. It knew the difference between being wanted in moments and being chosen in truth. It knew the difference between a connection that teaches you and a union that can walk with you. And yes, that knowing may have broken your heart before it freed you. Because the soul often sees what the heart is not ready to admit. The heart sees the memory. The soul sees the pattern. The heart sees the beautiful beginning. The soul sees the future cost. The heart says, "Maybe this could work." The soul says, "Not if you have to lose yourself." That is the sacred protection you may have mistaken for rejection. You are not being kept from love. You are being kept from the version of love that would have made you forget your own worth. You are being saved for the right union. A union where your sensitivity is not treated like a problem. Where your need for clarity is not mocked. Where your honesty is not punished with distance. Where your depth is not consumed and then avoided. Where your love is not taken for granted just because it is generous. The right union will not require you to become less yourself to be loved. It will not make you perform calmness while your body is silently panicking. It will not make you chase basic emotional care. It will not make you wonder every night where you stand. It will still ask for growth. Yes, real love always does. But it will not confuse growth with suffering. It will not use your wounds against you. It will not make your nervous system live in survival and call it passion. It will bring a different feeling. A deeper kind of peace. The kind that may feel unfamiliar at first. The kind where you can breathe. The kind where your body does not brace for abandonment after every small silence. The kind where eye contact feels safe, not destabilizing. The kind where conflict becomes communication instead of disappearance. The kind where love is not only felt, it is lived. And perhaps, when that union comes closer, you will finally understand why the others could not stay. Not because they were meaningless. Some of them mattered deeply. Some of them changed you. Some of them awakened parts of your heart you did not know were still alive. But they were not the final union. They were chapters, mirrors, teachers, thresholds. They brought you closer to yourself so you could stop choosing from the wound. And now, look at who you are becoming. You no longer want to be almost chosen. You no longer want love that makes you doubt your body. You no longer want intensity without consistency. You no longer want someone who only meets you when it is easy. You no longer want a relationship that requires you to shrink your needs so someone else can stay comfortable. You want truth. You want peace. You want depth that can be held. You want love that expands your life instead of suspending it. That is not asking for too much. That is your soul remembering the contract. The right union was never meant to be another emotional battlefield. It was meant to be a meeting place. A place where two souls can grow without one disappearing. A place where love can be spiritual and practical. A place where passion and peace can exist together. A place where both people are willing to become more honest, more present, more awake. So if nothing worked out before, do not use your past as proof that love will never stay. Use it as evidence that your soul was choosing carefully. Every closed door was clearing space. Every ending was removing misalignment. Every almost was teaching you to wait for whole. Every mirror was helping you see yourself. Every waiting season was healing the fear that love always leaves. You were not behind. You were being prepared. And the right union is not only about meeting the right person. It is about becoming the version of you who can recognize them, receive them, trust peace, communicate honestly, stay open without self-abandonment, love deeply without losing your center. That version of you is rising now. Through every heartbreak you survived, through every person you released, through every painful lesson that made you more honest with yourself. You are not the same person who once begged almost love to become enough. You are not the same person who called anxiety chemistry. You are not the same person who thought being chosen mattered more than being safe. You are becoming someone who can say, I am ready for love that meets me in truth. Not fantasy, not fragments, not fear, truth. And when the right union arrives, you will not need to abandon yourself to keep it. You will not need to decode love every night. You will not need to convince someone of your worth. You will not need to turn pain into proof. You will feel the difference. Maybe quietly, maybe gently, maybe with tears in your eyes because your body finally understands. This is what I was being saved for. Not perfection, not a fairy tale, not a person who never triggers anything, but a union that has room for honesty, repair, presence, tenderness, purpose, mutual growth, and peace. So stop mourning every closed door as if it stole your destiny. Some doors protected it. Stop calling every ending failure. Some endings were sacred redirections. Stop blaming yourself because nothing worked out before. Sometimes nothing works out because your soul contract refuses to let the wrong thing become permanent. You were not abandoned by love. You were being guided toward the love that can actually hold you. And until it arrives fully, keep becoming. Keep healing. Keep choosing yourself. Keep trusting your body. Keep refusing almost. Keep making space for what is aligned. Because the right union will not need you to betray your soul to receive it. It will meet you where truth lives. And if this message reached the part of you that has been questioning every ending, write this in the comments. I was being saved for the right union. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your reminder. Let it be the moment you stop seeing your past as proof of rejection and start seeing it as preparation. And if this video helped you see your love story differently, subscribe to this channel. Because the next message may be exactly what your soul has been waiting to hear. Lesson of this chapter. Nothing worked out before because your soul was saving you for the right union. The emotional truth is simple. You were not failing at love. You were being guided away from connections that could not meet your destiny. Every ending, mirror, almost love, closed door, and waiting season was preparing you for aligned union. The kind of love that does not ask you to abandon yourself in order to be chosen. The right union will not only touch your heart. It will honor your soul, your body, your healing, your purpose, and your peace.